Chapter 5194. Oh! Where Xiaohua's finger landed, a strand of hair-like crystal light landed on Fairy Hongxia's jade-like forehead. Fairy Hongxia groaned and opened her eyes. Seeing Xiaohua's unforgettable appearance reflected in her starry eyes, a sweet smile appeared on her enchanting lips. Fairy Hongxia was not surprised at all. She whispered, "Xiaohua, you're back." With that, Fairy Hongxia raised her arms and hugged Xiaohua. She pressed her face against Xiaohua's chest and closed her eyes in bliss. Xiaohua's eyes were moist. He already understood that Fairy Hongxia did not have any change of heart. In the past 1,000 years, she had dreamt of his return more than once. It was as if she imagined hugging him like this every time. So when she suddenly saw him, she thought that it was still a dream. Therefore, she did not have any doubts and hugged him like before. Xiaohua's heart melted. Gentleness was a hero's grave. Facing such gentleness, how could Xiaohua still have any heroic spirit? He could not help but wrap his arms around Fairy Hongxia, wanting to hug her too. However, his heart skipped a beat. He immediately waved his finger and a boundary appeared to protect his left side. As expected by Xiaohua, Fairy Hongxia closed her eyes, raised her neck, and kissed his lips again. Xiaohua lowered his head and gently touched the trembling and moist area. He touched the fresh and jade-like lilac. Ah! It was just a touch, but the familiar scent, the familiar feeling, the familiar passion, and the familiar action immediately woke Fairy Hongxia up. She let out a soft cry and opened her eyes. Her phoenix eyes narrowed as she shouted, "Who is it?" Before she could finish her words, Xiaohua covered her mouth again. Xiaohua's voice was a little muffled, "Of course it's your husband." You. Fairy Hongxia responded a few times. Her whole body was weak. 2 lines of tears flowed from the corner of her eyes. Lilac also enthusiastically welcomed it. However, in just a moment, Fairy Hongxia suddenly opened her mouth and fiercely bit Xiaohua's lips. Ouch! Xiaohua might not be in pain, but he still pretended to cry out, "Why did you bite me? Damn it!" Fairy Hongxia fiercely pinched Xiaohua's armpit again and asked, "For the past 700 years, where have you been hiding? Why can't I find you?" Xiaohua was a little embarrassed. Just as he was about to speak, Fairy Hongxia suddenly burst into tears again. Woo! She threw herself into Xiaohua's arms and cried, "Xiaohua, where the hell did you go? Do you know how much I missed you? Don't cry, don't cry." Xiaohua hugged Fairy Hongxia and stroked her long hair. Smelling the familiar scent, he said, "Isn't your husband back now? In the future, we will never separate again." Woo! Fairy Hongxia did not reply, she only cried in Xiaohua's embrace. However, in just a moment, Fairy Hongxia suddenly came to her senses and hurriedly escaped from Xiaohua's embrace. She raised her head and looked around. Unfortunately, the space had already been sealed by Xiaohua. Other than the two of them, Fairy Hongxia could not see anyone else. Where did this come from? Fairy Hongxia was baffled. This concubine remembers that we seem to have fallen into Yi Shixiang's ambush. Yes, that's right. Xiaohua nodded. Previously, Yi Shixiang used you as bait to lure the Fortune Gate's disciples to Sky Patrol City. Furthermore, Yu Tong wanted to use your bloodline as the foundation to forge the 4 sacred spirit body. Then, Fairy Hongxia was even more puzzled and asked, "What about them? What about Xiao Mao? What about my Kai family's disciples? Yu Tong and Yi Shixiang have already been killed by me." Xiaohua said indifferently, "The Kai family's disciples are also dead. Xiao Mao also fell into the 4 spirits' blood curse like you. At this time, he also has an opportunity. However, he is more troublesome. I will save you first, then save him." You. Fairy Hongxia looked at her husband in disbelief and asked curiously, "You can actually kill Yi Shixiang and Yutong?" "Yes." Xiao Hua smiled, "The current me is not the same as before. You will understand in a while." N. Fairy Hongxia smiled and pointed at Xiao Hua's forehead, "Then this concubine will see what divine ability husband has to save Xiao Mao." "Divine ability or not, I don't know." Xiao Hua said seriously, "This husband only knows that without my wife's kiss, this husband will not be able to test out any divine ability." "Humph." Fairy Hongxia raised her neck and slanted her eyes at Xiao Hua. Then, she leaned over and lightly kissed Xiao Hua's lips. "It won't be too late to reward you after you save Xiao Mao." "Yes, my wife, I will definitely do my best." Xiao Hua smiled happily. With a wave of his hand, he removed the barrier. Fairy Hongxia felt a flash in front of her and 3 huge crystals appeared. Moreover, Feng Wu and Huang Tong were beside them and even Yi Yin and the rest were in the distance. She could not help but be shocked. "Ah!" she exclaimed softly and her face turned red. However, without waiting for her to lower her head, Xiao Hua held her soft hand and pointed at where Huang Tong was and said, "Take a look, who is that person?" "Who?" Fairy Hongxia was a little embarrassed and did not dare to look. In her hurry, she did not see Li Zongbao and Kai Zhuxia. At this moment, when she heard Xiao Hua's words, she rebuked, "Since you are a cultivator that I know, why did you set up that barrier?" "Hehe, this person can't wait for us to stay in there longer." Xiao Hua said with a smile, "Take a look and you will know." "Who is it?" Fairy Hongxia raised her head and looked in that direction. She even said, "Why are you being so secretive?" However, when Fairy Hongxia saw Kai Zhuxia, she was stunned. She was even more shocked than when she saw Xiao Hua. She hurriedly rubbed her eyes and opened them again. Indeed, the living Kai Zhuxia flew over with tears streaming down her face. "Go quickly." Xiao Hua let go and said, "That is really Kai Zhuxia, but..." Fairy Hongxia did not dare to believe that Kai Zhuxia had come back to life. However, her innate kinship pushed her and she flew over without a care for anything else. Hongxia. The familiar voice and the face that was engraved in her memory caused Fairy Hongxia to cry again. "Sister." The 2 sisters hugged each other and cried bitterly. "Zhuxia, junior sister." Li Zongbao's voice sounded in their ears, "Junior brother Xiao still has to save the others. Let's go to the side first." N. Kai Zhuxia was already mentally prepared. At this moment, she choked with sobs as she pulled Fairy Hongxia's hand and followed Li Zongbao to Huang Tong's side. Fairy Hongxia naturally did not care about Xiao Hua saving people. Instead, she held Kai Zhuxia's warm hand and asked, "Sister, I remember you, your body was already cold at that time. How could you still be alive? Could it be?" Fairy Hongxia looked at Li Zongbao with some envy and said, "Senior brother Li really found an elixir for you? How can there be any elixir in this world?" Kai Zhuxia stopped crying and replied, "If not for your husband, even if Zongbao searched for another 1,000 or 10,000 years, I would not be able to live." "Ah! Him? Xiao Hua?" Fairy Hongxia was stunned and asked curiously, "How could he have such a divine ability? He is not the original Xiao Hua." Kai Zhuxia said meaningfully, "He is now Daoist Xiao. The one and only Daoist Xiao in the world. Sister and Zongbao may not understand his divine ability, but you have to remember, Sister was really revived by him. That's not possible, right?" Fairy Hongxia could not believe it and whispered to Kai Zhuxia. "If you don't believe me, look." Kai Zhuxia looked into the distance and said, "This kind of divine ability, who in the entire Dawn Rain continent can have it?" At this moment, Xiao Hua was sending Huang Mengxiang's vermilion bird celestial body into his body. Then, he raised his hand and a crystal light flashed from his finger and fell between Huang Mengxiang's eyebrows. Xiao Hua seemed to feel something and turned to look at Fairy Hongxia with a smile on his face. He nodded at Fairy Hongxia, telling her not to worry. Unexpectedly, just as Xiao Hua turned his face, Huang Mengxiang woke up. He was as enthusiastic and wild as he was at Tianmen Mountain. When Huang Mengxiang saw Xiao Hua, he said in ecstasy, "So it's big brother Xiao. Thank you so much, you saved me again." As she spoke, Huang Mengxiang stretched out her hand and hugged Xiao Hua's neck with her jade arms. Her red lips lightly raised as she kissed Xiao Hua's face. Of course, when Huang Mengxiang kissed his cheek, Xiao Hua had already noticed that the golden light on his face had blocked Huang Mengxiang's red lips. Unfortunately, Fairy Hongxia did not release her divine sense, so how could she tell? And Huang Mengxiang's words confirmed Fairy Hongxia's suspicions. How could she not know that the person in Huang Mengxiang's heart was Xiao Hua? And Xiao Hua and this Huang Mengxiang had something that she did not know about, happened. Of course I believe you. Fairy Hongxia's heart was filled with an indescribable feeling. She said faintly, "I saw it all." Seeing Fairy Hongxia's expression, Xiao Hua knew that things weren't going well. Golden light surged around his body as he slowly pushed Huang Mengxiang away. He said in a low voice, "Io, my little grandaunt, can't you stop causing trouble?" Huang Mengxiang pouted and looked at Fairy Hongxia in the distance. "Brother Xiao, what trouble did I cause? I like you, is there anything wrong with that? Although Fairy Hongxia is your Tao companion, you did not hold a dual cultivation ceremony. I still have the possibility of becoming your Tao companion. Besides, even if you two become Tao companions, can't you have another Tao companion? P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, save it, tip it, thank you for all forms of support. Thanks to Benben, Xiaohua, Dongfang Yushan, Honghua, Chen Fangliang, Wu Qing, Aluan, Jeshan, Lishao 777, Little Duan Demonis, Daoist Xiao, Little Jianjian, The Blue Sky One, Kai Gui Han, Favorite Tanhua, Loyal Fan of Divine Cultivation, Guff 854, 7985, etc. Also, if there are no accidents, today is the last update before the finale of Divine Cultivation. I hope everyone likes it and cherishes it. Chapter 5195. While speaking, Huang Mengxiang even winked at Xiao Hua with a, "You know what I mean." Look. Xiao Hua was extremely speechless. "Ioyo, that's right." Huang Mengxiang seemed to have thought of something and hurriedly said, "Previously, the young master of the Yi family, Yi Shixiang, even proposed to Fairy Hongxia, and Fairy Hongxia almost agreed." "Humph, if it was me, I would definitely not agree. Yi Shixiang and Yu Tong have already been killed by me." Xiao Hua said faintly, "There's no need to mention this again." "Ah." Huang Mengxiang was shocked and hurriedly said, "You actually killed them all. My goodness, Brother Xiao, you're actually so powerful now. I'm so happy. Brother Xiao, you're my great hero, I'll only marry you in this life." Xiao Hua was really helpless when he heard this. He was extremely regretful now. He wanted to set up a restriction to block Huang Mengxiang's words and everything that happened. However, he also understood that doing this now was just drawing legs on a snake. If Fairy Hongxia knew about this, it would only add to her troubles. Xiao Hua looked at Fairy Hongxia in the distance and a bitter smile appeared on his face, hoping that Fairy Hongxia could see it. Unfortunately, Fairy Hongxia's mouth twitched and turned to whisper to Kaixuxia as if she couldn't see him. She was obviously angry. "Huang Mengxiang." Xiao Hua turned to Huang Mengxiang and said, "I'll tell you again, Brother Xiao, what do you want to say? Just say it, I'm listening." Huang Mengxiang supported his cheeks with both hands and looked at Xiao Hua with watery eyes filled with worship and infatuation. He muttered as if he was sleepwalking. Xiao Hua opened his mouth and simply waved his hand, "Forget it, I won't say anything. I think you already know what I want to say." N. Huang Mengxiang nodded his head like a chick pecking rice and replied, "Don't worry, Brother Xiao, I'll listen to you. I won't say anything else and will just watch you quietly from the side. Go go." Xiao Hua waved his hand and sent Huang Mengxiang to Feng Wu's side, "Just don't cause trouble for I." "Of course, how can I cause trouble for Brother Xiao?" Huang Mengxiang was more well-behaved than any other deer. It stood obediently in the air, lowered its voice as if to demonstrate its power, and replied gently. As it spoke, it did not forget to glance at Fairy Hongxia a few times. At this moment, Xiao Hua could no longer care about Huang Mengxiang and Fairy Hongxia because the 4 crystals of the 4-spirit blood curse were the 4 places where yin and yang were balanced. According to the arrangement of the jade system, the 4 crystals would give birth to the 4 saint spirit body. Right now, Xiao Hua's reversal of the 4 saint spiritual bodies was equivalent to reversing the universe. The difficulty was not ordinary. Previously, Xiao Hua had used the spirit extermination vital light to freeze the 4 spirits blood curse. More importantly, he had temporarily maintained the yin-yang formation formed by the 4 crystals, ensuring that Fairy Hongxia, Huang Mengxiang, and Xiao Mao would not be harmed. Now that Xiao Hua had rescued Fairy Hongxia, one of the 4 crystals was gone. Although Fairy Hongxia and Huang Mengxiang's side was slightly tilted, they were still able to maintain their balance. When Huang Mengxiang was rescued, half of the 4 spirits' blood curse was gone. At the same time, the blood curse was collapsing rapidly in mid-air, and at the same time, an indescribable wave of energy was crazily attacking the other 2 crystals. As for the spirit extermination vital light that had pinned down the 4 spirits' blood curse, it was also trembling violently. Pieces of shattered light mixed with the black and white light screen also scattered in all directions. Waves of roar, like the roar of a bull, came from the void. Wherever the light screen passed, the 2 crystals would lose their brilliance as if their colors had faded. The Yun Xiaoying and Yu Song that were originally sealed in the crystals also gradually disappeared. Damn it! Xiao Hua cursed under his breath, and hurriedly raised his hands. His arms, which were already shining with a silver light, instantly expanded and flew across the sky to land on the 2 crystals. Rumble! The moment the silver light appeared, countless lightning bolts came from the sky, from the void, and fell toward Xiao Hua. At the same time, an ascending force surged out from Xiao Hua's left side like a spring. Not only that, an unparalleled aura that was similar to an oppressive pressure was emitted from Xiao Hua's body, rushing in all directions like a tidal wave. Whether it was Fairy Hongxia, Huang Mengxiang, or the rest, they were unable to stand firm in the face of this aura. Their bodies trembled, and fear appeared in their eyes. Go! Huan Tong and Feng Wu looked at each other, and Xiao Hua's roar came from the bottom of their hearts. The 2 clones did not dare to delay, and with a wave of their sharp claws, they brought everyone to fly into the distance. Although they flew quickly, they were still not as fast as the immortal spiritual aura. Fairy Hongxia and the rest were like mortals drowning in a river, surrounded by terror. If Fairy Hongxia and the rest were like this, how could the Fortune Gate disciples, Sky Patrol City's sword cultivators, and the disciples of the Cultivation World's 3 great paths be any better? One by one, they could not even summon their true qi and true essence, and fell onto the snowy plains, looking at the godlike Xiao Hua in horror. Pooh! Xiao Hua controlled the 2 crystals, opened his mouth, and sent a mouthful of true qi into the sword gourd. Woo woo! The sword gourd let out a trembling sound, and the spirit execution vital light shone brightly. Ka ka ka! Waves of cracking sounds came from the void, as if the place where the spirit execution vital light was targeting was unable to support the collapsing 4 spirits blood curse. Looking at the other side of the collapsing 4 spirits blood curse, cracks as thick as a child's arm appeared along with the lightning bolts, right at this moment. Seeing the inside of the 4 spirits blood curse being annihilated, Xiao Hua clenched his teeth and secretly shouted in his heart. Borrowing the ascending force of the nearby void, he waved his right hand. Rumble. A huge rumbling sound was produced from the silver tiger crystal. Under Xiao Hua's strength, the huge crystal trembled and moved, with Xiao Hua's current divine ability, not to mention a crystal, even if it was a mountain, if Xiao Hua wanted to move it, he could do it with a wave of his arm. However, this four spirits blood curse was created by Yutong with reference to the immortal world's immortal array, and the blood curse claimed to be one. If Xiao Hua wanted to reverse the blood curse to move this crystal, it would be even more difficult than moving a mountain. Moreover, Xiao Hua also had to consider the life and death of Xiao Mao and Hanba inside the crystal, so he was even more cautious. Seeing that the crystal had only moved a few zhang, its speed began to slow down again. The two crystals produced a suction force, and the other side of the collapsing four spirits blood curse gave birth to a strong pushing force, preventing the crystal from moving. Damn it! Xiao Hua understood that this was the natural rejection of yin and yang. If he wanted to reverse yin and yang, he had to take out a divine ability that surpassed the laws of this realm. He raised his head to look at the tribulation clouds, then looked at the nearby thunderbolts and immortal spiritual energy, and couldn't help but curse. If I forcefully activate my immortal spiritual energy, I might be able to send this crystal to the other side of the four spirits blood curse, but the immortal spiritual energy in my body will definitely be activated to an extreme degree, and my ascension will be unavoidable. However, if I don't move the crystal, the entire four spirits blood curse will be destroyed in a moment, and these two crystals will also be destroyed. Not to mention Xiao Mao and Hanba surviving, even their souls won't be able to enter the cycle of reincarnation. Thinking up to here, Xiao Hua hesitated. After all, there were only Xiao Mao and Hanba inside the crystal, and there were billions of living beings in the three continents. This simple comparison was easy for him to make a judgment. Let's activate the lightning escape first. Xiao Hua didn't dare to use the immortal technique again, and while retracting his immortal spiritual energy, he pondered. If the lightning escape doesn't work, then I'll try to put the four spirits blood curse into the space. Of course, when Xiao Hua released his divine sense earlier, he already knew that the four spirits blood curse was an independent entity, and he couldn't activate it even if he used the immortal technique. Now, even if he released his divine sense and mind, it wouldn't be easy to put this crystal into the space. Rumble. Xiao Hua's body moved at will, the lightning around his body flourished, and he activated the lightning escape with all his might. He abandoned the flame dragon crystal and placed both his arms on the silver tiger crystal, pushing the crystal towards the other side of the four spirits blood curse. Amidst the lightning, that seemingly thin body actually became blurry, and the crystal that had already started to slow down accelerated once again. In the end, a multicolored ball of light gradually appeared in front of Xiao Hua's eyes. Xiao Hua was clear in his heart, his lightning escape had activated the light escape, and the crystal in front of him might not be able to stop his light escape. In other words, he might not be able to push the crystal anymore, and he would pass through the crystal and enter the other side of the crystal. Xiao Hua didn't dare to be negligent, and hastily retracted his magic power, carefully maintaining the edge of the light escape. After a long time, time seemed to have already become imperceptible at the edge of the light escape. Xiao Hua's arms sank, and the crystal encountered an indestructible barrier, unable to move forward even half an inch. Moreover, an even stronger suction force behind Xiao Hua was like a giant hand of heaven and earth that grasped the crystal, trying its best to snatch the crystal away from Xiao Hua's hands. Xiao Hua understood that this was the most crucial moment. He had already pushed the crystal to the point where yin and yang intersected. The crystal only needed to cross this barrier, and the broken four spirits blood curse would definitely be balanced again. Not only would Xiao Mao and Hanba's lives be unharmed, they would even be able to absorb the bloodline power within the crystal, which would be extremely beneficial to their cultivation. Rumble. Xiao Hua once again activated his magic power, and where the lightning passed, Xiao Hua's figure disappeared by more than half. Xiao Hua hurriedly emptied his hands, and both his arms entered the crystal. Xiao Hua was greatly alarmed, and hastily retracted his magic power. That disappeared figure reappeared, and both his arms also withdrew from the crystal. What should I do? Xiao Hua was somewhat in a predicament, and he inwardly pondered, previously, if it wasn't for my apprehension that Feng Wu and Huang Tong would trigger the four spirits' blood curse, I should have let them make a move together with me. Thunder Immortal is the most suitable, but he is also sacrificial, refining the five elements wishful heaven staff in the space, so there is simply no way for him to get out. Thinking of this, Xiao Hua suddenly had a feeling of coming back from the jaws of death, as if he had realized something. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, cast a monthly vote, cast a recommendation vote, collect a collection, reward, and thank you for all forms of support. Thanks to Benben, Xiaohua, Dongfang Yushan, Honghua, Chen Fangliang, Wu Qin, Aluan, Jeshen, Li Xiao 777, Little Duan Demonis, Daoist Xiao, Little Jianjian, The Blue Sky One, Kai Gui Han, Favorite Tanhua, Loyal Fan of Divine Cultivation, GUF 854, 7985, and so on. Today, I will update for you, but some of the names of the people were not completely counted, so I hope everyone can understand. In addition, if there are no accidents, today is the last update before the end of Divine Cultivation. I hope everyone likes it and cherish it. Chapter 5196. Xiao Hua cursed in a low voice, "Damn it, how could I forget about the soul-punishing vital light? The reason why the five elements wishful sky cudgel can be independent and not enter the five elements is because of the closure and perfection of the magnetic force. The reason why the four spirits blood curse can be integrated should also be because of the innate attribute of the bloodline power. I have already removed the Ice Phoenix and Vermilion Bird bloodlines, and now the four spirits blood curse is only left with the Flame Dragon and Silver Tiger bloodlines. It is naturally difficult for me to force the Flame Dragon and Silver Tiger bloodlines to balance the yin and yang of the four spirits blood curse. Why don't I go with the flow and divide these two crystals into yin and yang, then the balance of the four spirits blood curse will naturally be achieved." After pondering for a while, Xiao Hua felt that his guess was correct. He hastily called out in his heart, "Fellow Taoist Feng Wu, quickly activate the spirit-slaying vital light and send the yin and yang energies within it into these two crystals, easy." Feng Wu and Huang Tong were already anxious. Now that they heard Xiao Hua's order, how could Feng Wu dare to be negligent? After answering, she waved her claws, and the power of the stars and moon fell on the sword gourd. Gotcha! The soul-punishing vital light retracted, and the point nailed in the void instantly shattered. Ripples of the void shattered rapidly spread out. Shwa! The soul-punishing vital light fell on the two crystals, and the black and white light curtain also fell. The previous color of the two crystals instantly disappeared. Xiao Hua did not dare to fly away, and only retracted his divine ability. Following the annihilation of the lightning tribulation power, he flew beside the crystals that were beginning to fly backward. He was accumulating power and observing at the same time. Once there was a change, he would immediately attack again. The two crystals that had turned into black and white suddenly accelerated, but after reaching a certain extent, their speed began to slow down. Looking at the incomparably chaotic undulations to the left, it was different from what the naked eye could see. When the two crystals started to fly, they started to gradually settle down. It was as if Fairy Hongxia's messy thoughts and the knot in her heart were gradually sorted out as Xiao Hua activated his supreme divine ability. Good. Xiao Hua was overjoyed when he saw that there was a rhythm to the fluctuations. He waited for the two crystals to slow down before his hands once again shone with a silvery white brilliance. He formed a series of hand seals and waved his arms as he shouted in a low voice, "Form." Ka. The celestial art landed in the middle of the two crystals, and a void similar to the center of the four spirits' blood curse appeared in the air. The two light curtains above the crystals fell into the void along with the celestial art, and the two huge crystals suddenly stopped in the air. An immortal formation called the two spirits' blood curse was slowly forming. Huff! Xiao Hua let out a long breath and jumped out of the formation. He stood in midair and cupped his hands towards Feng Wu. Thank you for your trouble, fellow Taoist. However, Feng Wu shook his head and said, fellow Taoist, don't relax. This blood curse formation is only temporarily stable. If it loses the yin and yang energy of the spirit extermination light, these two crystals will still collapse. Xiao Hua smiled and said, fellow Taoist, don't worry. When I was reversing the four spirits' blood curse, I was trying. Now that it has temporarily become yin and yang, and the attribute of one of the crystals has changed, and there is no life inside, I don't have to worry too much. I just need to follow the method of the four spirits' blood curse and make some changes inside. Huang Tong said with some disdain, fellow Taoist, you are too careful. In I's opinion, as long as fellow Taoist comes out and uses his 10,000 extinguishing heavenly dipper, he would have already destroyed this lifeless crystal. Just as Huang Tong finished speaking, the two crystals indeed shook again, and the void that had just formed in the middle strangely disappeared. Xiao Hua looked at the void that had collapsed again, but the nature of the collapse was completely different from before. He narrowed his eyes and said, I already know from Yu Tong's memories that Xiao Mao, although he did some things that went against his conscience, he did not owe Fairy Hongxia and I anything. He even sacrificed himself to save Fairy Hongxia, so I cannot do anything that will harm Xiao Mao's life. Not only do you want to save Xiao Mao, you also want to give the blood essence of these tens of thousands of human cultivators to him, right? Huang Tong asked in her heart with some displeasure. Don't forget, what you want to do, is more important than saving Xiao Mao. If I don't save one person, how can I save the world? Xiao Hua laughed loudly, and his hand formed the celestial spell again. This celestial spell was exactly the same as Yu Tong's. As the celestial spell entered the silver tiger crystal, the crystal began to shake, and rhythmic waves came from all parts of the crystal. Wherever the waves came from, the crystal would turn into crystal grains, and the grains would turn into blood-red crystal dots, and the surface of these blood-red dots would turn black. Go. The last celestial spell was sent out. This celestial spell did not land on the crystal dots, nor did it land on Xiao Hua himself, but on the fire dragon crystal. As the celestial spell landed on the fire dragon crystal, thousands of whirlpools appeared on the surface of the fire dragon crystal. The whirlpools originally had a white light screen, but now the light screen condensed into rays of white light that shot into the sky, landing on the thousands of blood-red dots. The moment the black and white lights touched, the blood-red dots gave off a blinding light that rushed into the whirlpool of the fire dragon crystal. Who? Suddenly, Xiao Hua's expression changed, and he looked at the ground. He let out a low roar, and his body flew down because he could clearly see that the blood-red dots did not fall into the white light, but instead left the light screen and landed on the ground. Ha ha ha. A slightly hoarse voice laughed and said, as expected of a human Grand Ascension stage cultivator, you know how to reverse the four-spirit blood curse. However, even if you help the cultivator inside the blood crystal, so what? In the end, aren't you still a sacrifice for this old man? This voice appeared abruptly and disappeared quickly. When Xiao Hua landed on the ground, he released his divine sense, but there was nothing abnormal. The four huge holes were like two pairs of mocking eyes staring at Xiao Hua. Kaka. Huang Tong and Feng Wu's expressions changed greatly, and before they could say anything, they spread their wings and flew to different places. However, only a few breaths later, the two avatars flew back, and their eyes were filled with shock. Clearly, they could not believe that they had not discovered anything. How was it? Feng Wu was not as calm as Huang Tong, and seeing Xiao Hua fly out of the abyss with a pale face, she hurriedly asked, "Did you find anything?" Xiao Hua narrowed his eyes, shook his head slightly, and said, "I didn't find anything. In addition to some faint demonic qi, there seems to be some sword qi, and more bloodline qi formed by the four-spirit blood curse. What a pity." Feng Wu looked up at the spirit-slaying vital light that was still nailing the silver tiger crystal, and said, if there was the spirit-slaying vital light, we might have killed that guy. Huang Tong shook her head and said, not necessarily, boom. Before Huang Tong could finish speaking, in the distant south, thousands of miles away, there was an earth-shaking roar. The sound had weakened a lot by the time it reached here, but the strange fluctuation did not weaken because of the distance. The fluctuation swept across the Sky Patrol City, and a fierce wind was stirred up. After the fierce wind passed, a smoke-like black whirlwind rose from the other side of the snowy plains, and pierced through the heavens and the earth. Xiao Hua did not hesitate at all, and his body flashed. He was about to teleport over, but just as he flew out, his body appeared again. He pointed at Fairy Hongxia, and shouted to Yuanya in the distance, "Yeah, quickly come over and protect Fairy Hongxia." Yuanya shattered Sua Ming's left arm, but did not immediately take Sua Ming's life. He originally wanted to capture Sua Ming and bring him to Xiao Hua, but when he saw Xiao Hua use his great powers to break the four-spirit blood curse, he stopped in midair. Now that there was a change, and Xiao Hua's expression changed, how could he not know the urgency of the matter? He agreed, and without asking who Fairy Hongxia was, he left Sua Ming, and flew in the direction Xiao Hua pointed at. Seeing that Yuanya had left, Xiao Hua was about to fly, but he was still worried. After thinking for a while, he pulled the black bear spirit out of the space. Without waiting for the black bear spirit to bow, he ordered, "Black bear, quickly follow Yuanya, and help me protect Fairy Hongxia. Oh, and Zhang Qingxiao and the others, Yuanya knows them." Yes. The black bear spirit did not dare to delay, and hurriedly followed Yuanya. To Xiao Hua, several thousand kilometers was nothing more than the blink of an eye. However, before he could break free from his teleportation, boom, boom, boom. Another series of explosions rang out from the east, west, and north. The entire earth shook violently, and several layers of ripples appeared along with several streaks of black chi that soared into the sky, enveloping the snowy plains within several tens of thousands of kilometers. Under the impact of the waves, Xiao Hua's body was forced out of the void. Xiao Hua escaped from the void, and at a glance, he saw a pillar of black gas not far away. At this time, the black gas had begun to spread wildly in all directions, but Xiao Hua could see clearly that in the middle of the black gas, there was a pillar of punishment that was larger than a mountain. Waves of noble chi forcibly tore through the void, and rushed into it. An aura that was more majestic than the aura of imperial power gradually emanated from the pillar of punishment. An indescribable bright yellow color turned into threads of light that condensed within the black gas. This is a defensive formation. Xiao Hua looked at the pillar of punishment in disbelief, and then looked at the pervading black gas, and could not help but cry out in surprise. The black gas was different from ordinary demonic gas, and did not have too much blood stains. Instead, as the noble chi rushed in, it formed a bright yellow color. This bright yellow color had just begun to take shape, and it was hard to see what it looked like. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote for a monthly vote, vote for a recommendation vote, bookmark, gift, and thank you for all forms of support. Thanks to Benben, Xiaohua, Dongfang Yushan, Honghua, Chen Fangliang, Wu Qing, Aluan, Jeshan, Lixiao 777, Little Duan Demonis, Daoist Xiao, Little Jianjian, The Blue Sky One, Kai Gui Han, Favorite Tanhua, Loyal Fan of Divine Cultivation, Guff 854, 7985, and so on. Also, if there are no accidents, today is the last update before the finale of Divine Cultivation. I hope everyone likes it, and cherish it. Chapter 5197. Huang Tong and Feng Wu, who were close to Xiao Hua, also came to their senses. Feng Wu exclaimed, "That's right. What that voice just said, is the language of the hidden immortal continent's Confucian cultivators. It's different from the Dawn Rain continent. The book immortal who turned into a demon." Xiao Hua suddenly thought of something. An incredible idea came from the bottom of his heart. He cried out involuntarily, could it be, that the Heavenly Court's book immortal who injured Su Ji and Fairy Xingyu, actually fell on the Dawn Rain continent? It can't be so coincidental, right? Feng Wu couldn't help but groan. Huang Tong, on the other hand, recovered from the shock and said lightly, so impossible. Su Ji, Fairy Xingyu, and the book immortal encountered a starburst and fell into the mortal world. Su Ji and Fairy Xingyu were banished to the 3 continents. The 3 continents and the Dawn Rain continent are one, so it's normal for the book immortal to fall on the Dawn Rain continent. But Xiao Hua still wanted to say something, but when the words reached his mouth, he swallowed them back down. Facts spoke louder than words. Who else could have the strength to not be detected by his divine ability and be able to set up such a defensive formation other than the book immortal that Su Ji spoke of? Asterisk boom boom boom, asterisk at that moment, there were still rumbling sounds coming from the distance. Pillars of punishment that could not be seen with the naked eye appeared in the black smoke and sealed off the world. The bright yellow pillars that could not be seen clearly before had now taken shape. They were torture tools that looked like axes. These torture tools were strung together like chains with inscriptions. They moved horizontally and vertically, slowly sealing off the sky and the earth. The array is about to be sealed. Huang Tong's eyes flashed with a green light, and she whispered, if we rush out now, we may have a chance to escape. Feng Wu sneered, do you think this is an ordinary array? This is the immortal defense array set up by the Heavenly Court's book immortal. That's right. Xiao Hua withdrew his gaze from the pillars and the chains and nodded, this is the book immortal that even Su Ji and Fairy Xingyu couldn't resist. Even if he was injured, the immortal defense array he set up is not something we can break through at will. Moreover, even if we can break through, can we leave now? AI. Feng Wu sighed heavily. His phoenix eyes looked into the distance, at the dense crowd of Fortune Gate's disciples, as well as many sect chiefs and disciples from the 3 major cultivation countries. He knew very well that Xiao Hua would not abandon these humans and leave. The problem is, Huang Tong was confused. Since the book immortal had already set up the immortal defense array, why did he wait until now to activate it? Why did he set up the immortal defense array here? Xiao Hua was in a hurry earlier and didn't have time to transmit the Jade Talisman's memories to Huang Tong and Feng Wu. Now that he heard Huang Tong's words, he transmitted everything he knew to them. Huang Tong instantly understood. He looked at the black gas and then at the crowd. He smiled bitterly and said, so it's for the blood sacrifice. Not bad. Xiao Hua nodded and said, the book immortal was discovered by Fairy Xingyu because of the blood sacrifice. Now, she has set up the immortal defense array for the blood sacrifice. Don't forget that Sky Patrol City is where the Sword Principle battle will take place. I also participated in the last Sword Principle battle, and I don't know how many human cultivators died near Sky Patrol City. This book immortal must have set up the immortal defense array to wait for the next Sword Principle battle, waiting for more blood and wandering souls. Huang Tong continued, but what he didn't expect was that before the Sword Principle battle, the Fortune Gate's disciples besieged Sky Patrol City. Then, the Huan country's 3 sword sects and the Heavenly Demon sect's 3 sects came. The Fortune Gate's disciples from the 3 major continents came. The sect chiefs of the 3 major cultivation countries also came with their disciples. A battle comparable to the Sword Principle battle almost broke out. Not to mention, before the battle, there was still an immortal formation to condense the 4 sacred spirit bodies. In that case, Xiao Hua thought for a moment, took out the Kunlun mirror, and handed it to Feng Wu. I'll have to trouble you to take my Fortune Gate's disciples and the other sect's disciples into the Kunlun Wonderland, no problem. Feng Wu did not dare to delay. She took the Kunlun mirror and agreed. She spread her wings and tore through the void to fly back. But just as she tore through the void, boom boom boom. Chains of Xingming rushed out and blocked Feng Wu's demonic body. The chains landed on Feng Wu's demonic body and made a roaring sound. Although the chains broke when Feng Wu flapped her wings and the axe-like Xing Ming was annihilated, the heavy chains had already sealed the void, and Feng Wu was unable to use the space escape technique. Damn it! Xiao Hua cursed under his breath and hurriedly used the thunder escape technique to fly back. Although Feng Wu and Huang Tong followed behind him, Xiao Hua could clearly feel that the space was gradually being confined by the immortal defense array. Ha ha ha. Before Xiao Hua could fly back to Sky Patrol City, he heard the laughter from before in the surrounding sky again. Dao Cultivator, you don't have to struggle anymore. When you discovered my tracks, my great array had already been activated. Not to mention you, even a banished immortal would not be able to escape from this great array. Hearing that the great array had already been completed, Xiao Hua felt more at ease. He looked coldly at the sky and asked, 81 punishment pillars of Confucian cultivators. What kind of immortal defense array is this? Ah! A surprised sound came from the sky. The book immortal who was dressed in pitch-black Confucian robes from before revealed his distorted figure in the void. He looked at Xiao Hua in disbelief and said, You can see the punishment pillars. You also know about the immortal defense array. Who exactly are you? How could anyone on the Dawn Rain continent know about the immortal defense array? Xiao Hua stopped, but Huang Tong and Feng Wu continued to fly forward. Xiao Hua said lightly, You don't know, but that doesn't mean that no one knows. You're just a Confucian cultivator, just a immortal defense array, just a book immortal of the heavenly court. What's so great about that? Who exactly are you? The book immortal was obviously attracted by Xiao Hua's words. He ignored the departing Huang Tong and Feng Wu. His huge figure distorted and actually landed in front of Xiao Hua. His voice trembled as he asked. Seeing that the book immortal was a little absent-minded, Xiao Hua did not say anything and raised his hand. Shua! A golden light appeared and 2 golden dragons flew out. The dragons immediately imprisoned the space where the book immortal was. Moreover, before the book immortal could use any magic, the dragon's tails swung and tore through the void, landing on the book immortal's body. Wherever the dragon tails passed, not only were the punishment pillars that were tens of miles away from the 2 dragons cut in half, even the huge book immortal's figure was chopped down. Seeing that the book immortal's figure was chopped down, the black shadows were annihilated and turned into a vast chi. Xiao Hua's heart was anxious. His figure shook and he disappeared from the spot. Roar! Sure enough, just as Xiao Hua's figure moved away, an angry roar came from another place. Then, a thick punishment pillar appeared out of nowhere like a python dragon and rolled towards Xiao Hua's previous location. Although this punishment pillar was not as fast as the soaring dragon scissors, its momentum was more powerful. It covered hundreds of miles. Although Xiao Hua had already flown more than 10 miles away, he was still caught by the punishment pillar. Seeing that the axe that could destroy mountains was falling, Xiao Hua sneered. Golden light shone from his body and his transcendence golden body was displayed. A hurricane of heaven and earth spiritual chi was squeezed out from the void. In a moment, it became hundreds of feet large. Boom! Xiao Hua threw a punch, but in the roar, the punishment pillar was actually broken and shattered by his punch. This! The book immortal exclaimed in surprise. His figure stepped out from the void on the other side of the punishment pillar. It was as if he was walking up a high slope. With every step, the book immortal's figure would grow by 3 times. When he was in front of Xiao Hua, he had already turned into a sub-body that was twice as tall as Xiao Hua. Humph! Xiao Hua was naturally not to be outdone. His figure shook, and his golden body expanded again. It was at least 10,000 feet. Great success! The book immortal's eyes were like lightning at this time. He looked at Xiao Hua and said, Who are you? How do you know the secret of my heavenly court? Xiao Hua smiled and said, At this time, what are you still doubting? The most impossible thing in your heart, isn't it the truth? Impossible. The Book Immortal shook his head and said, this old man has already investigated the Dawn Rain continent. There is no immortal in this mortal world. However, just as the Book Immortal said this, he laughed involuntarily. He raised his hand and pointed at Xiao Hua and said with a smile, this old man understands. You are not a cultivator of the Dawn Rain continent. You are from other realms. Unfortunately, before he finished speaking, the Book Immortal's face suddenly showed surprise. He raised his eyes and looked into the distance. He said curiously, Kunlun Mirror. You actually have the ancient magic weapon Kunlun Mirror. After he finished speaking, the Book Immortal's body glowed with a faint golden light. As the golden light appeared, countless noble spirit flew out of the void and entered his body. As the noble spirit poured in, the Book Immortal's original Confucian robe slowly changed, revealing an armor. Moreover, the Xing Ming chain that was swimming around the two of them also made a metallic sound. The Book Immortal growled and said with a somewhat ferocious expression, your Taoist cultivation has reached the Mahayana level. You want to save people in my torture array? You're too naive, aren't you? While speaking, the Book Immortal waved his fists. His body was like lightning, and his fists were like stars, smashing toward Xiao Hua. Seeing the Book Immortal's body swaying like a mountain whistling and the sky collapsing, Xiao Hua's blood gushed out from the bottom of his heart. He also waved his fists and met the Book Immortal's attack. He said loudly, okay, I will see how powerful the Book Immortal of the Heavenly Court is. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote for a monthly vote, vote for a recommendation vote, bookmark, reward, and thank you for all kinds of support. Thanks to Benben, Xiaohua, Dongfang Yushan, Honghua, Chen Fangliang, Wuqing, Aluan, Jeshan, Lishao 777, Little Duan Demonic Flower, Daoist Xiao, Little Jianjian, The Blue Sky One, Kai Gui Han, Favorite Tanhua, Loyal Fan of Divine Cultivation, Guff 854, 7985, and other rewards. Today's update ends, please wait for tomorrow's update. Chapter 5198. Feng Wu took the Kunlun mirror and flew over the punishment formation with Huang Tong accompanying her. She saw that the entire punishment formation was filled with chains of punishment. These chains looked a little different from the chains of inscriptions. The chains of inscriptions were filled with rules and imperial power. Everywhere they went, everything surrendered. On the other hand, Xing Ming's chains were filled with the aura of punishment and the intent of annihilation. Everywhere they passed, all living beings would be killed mercilessly. Huang Tong and Feng Wu flew in and felt a great obstruction, making it difficult for them to use their divine abilities. With Feng Wu and Huang Tong like this, the Fortune Gate disciples, Sky Patrol City Sword cultivators, and cultivators found it even more difficult to cultivate. When Feng Wu flew near the Sky Patrol City, the inscription chains had already drowned all the cultivators like a wave. Regardless of whether they were Dao Gate cultivators or sword cultivators, they all formed a battle formation again. Under the command of their leader, they circulated their magic power and sword energy to resist the inscription chains. Feng Wu scanned the area with his origin sense and saw Fairy Hongxia, Wuqing, and the others standing within the group of Fortune Gate disciples under the protection of Yuanya and the Black Bear Spirit. At this time, the power of Xing Ming's chain was still weak. Not to mention Yuanya's Devil Spear, even the Fortune Gate disciples could easily block it. On the other hand, the Black Bear Spirit loyally protected Fairy Hongxia, Huang Mengxiang, and the others. He did not block the inscription chains. However, Feng Wu did not dare to hesitate. He flew above everyone and activated the Kunlun mirror in his hand. He shouted, Fortune Gate disciples, listen to my command, ha ha ha. Before Feng Wu could finish, there was another wild laugh. In the void near the sword gourd, another Book Immortal stepped out. He looked at the Kunlun mirror in Feng Wu's hand and laughed, this old man's luck is really good. Although I can't get the spirit punishing vital light now, if I can get the Kunlun mirror, wouldn't it be more useful than the spirit-punishing vital light? As he spoke, the book immortal raised his hand. Tens of thousands of inscription chains turned into a huge hand, making a kacha-kacha sound as they grabbed at Feng Wu. Although the huge hand did not have much binding power, the inscription chains around Feng Wu surged like waves. Feng Wu did not dare to delay and hurriedly shouted, "Fellow Taoist, come and help me." "I'm coming." Huang Tong shouted loudly and flapped her wings. Endless space power turned into a gust of wind. Her sharp claws reached into the void. Not only did it shatter Xing Ming's chains, but it also reached out from the void and landed on the book immortal's heart. Rumble. Where Huang Tong's wings landed, they collided with the book immortal's hand. Thousands of chains were broken, and the nearby space almost collapsed. Pooh! Just as Huang Tong's claws were about to strike, the book immortal waved his sleeves. Countless chains formed a wall in front of the book immortal, but this seemingly indestructible wall was shattered by Huang Tong's claws. A great saint of the demon race. The book immortal was clearly somewhat astonished, and asked curiously, Daybreak Continent's Tao cultivators originally didn't even have Tribulation Transcendence cultivators. How come there are so many supreme stage experts now? There are many things you don't know. Huang Tong did not care about the book immortal's words. She laughed coldly and said, "You just have to hand over your life." With that, Huang Tong flapped her wings again. A powerful gust of wind rushed into the sky, messing up the broken chains. Within the gust of wind, hundreds of phantoms of phoenix claws, which could split rocks and pierce clouds, shot towards the book immortal like arrows. Seeing Huang Tong steal the limelight, the book immortal's face grew cautious. He raised his hand slightly, and the right hand that was hidden in his robes rose. A flute-like object appeared. The book immortal placed the flute by his mouth and blew gently. A pleasant sound came from the flute. This sound fell into the air, and the Xing Ming's chains that were shattered by Huang Tong quickly condensed. In the blink of an eye, these Xing Ming's chains turned into 5 different-sized generals. They danced strangely and flew towards Huang Tong. The strangest thing was that when the 5 generals flew, not only did they produce a pleasant melody, but their flight path was also in sync with the melody. It looked very magical, blocking Huang Tong from all directions. Facing the siege of the 5 generals, Huang Tong, who was proficient in the power of the soul, could not help but be shocked. His blood rushed up. When his sharp claws reached down and crushed one of the generals, his body trembled. An indescribable melody appeared in his mind. He almost cried out in surprise, this is the 5 laws of Confucianism. Gong Shang Jiao Jiu. Not bad, not bad. The book immortal heard and clapped. We Confucianism have a saying, playing the lute to a cow. I really did not expect that a demon saint from the mortal world would know the sound attack of us Confucianism. As he spoke, a few more melodious melodies sounded. Another 5 generals that were born from the 5 laws of Gong Shang Jiao Jiu appeared and surrounded Huang Tong. Damn it! Huang Tong's sharp claws crushed a few more generals. However, the strange melody pierced into his mind. Even if he activated his supernatural powers, he could not block it. Huang Tong frowned slightly and thought for a while. He opened his mouth and said, "Fellow Taoist, help me." Oh! The book immortal was stunned. He turned to look at Feng Wu who was flying towards Fairy Hongxiao. However, Feng Wu did not turn around at all. Instead, she was on the left side of the book immortal, where Xiao Hua and the book immortal were fighting. Rumble. A dark green lightning flashed and Taoist witch flew out of space. Before his body that resembled a witch god could get close, he heard the chanting of ghosts and spirits. Green seal text the size of a fist appeared out of thin air. The moment the green seal text appeared, the 5 generals formed by the 5 laws collapsed. The melodious rhythm disappeared and the space around him was filled with the sound of green seal text. The Book Immortal looked as if he had seen a ghost. He looked at Taoist Witch in disbelief. He raised his hand and said, You what? Give me your life. Huang Tong saw that there was an opportunity. He roared and pounced forward. His sharp claws tore through the space and grabbed at the Book Immortal. Humph. Seeing that the space around the Book Immortal was collapsing and the Book Immortal's body was distorting, another cold snort was heard. Demons are indeed barbarians. Don't they know that they are outnumbered? Following this sound, there was the sound of a bowstring being released. So. A murderous aura suddenly appeared out of thin air. Huang Tong was so frightened that her body trembled. She opened her mouth. Woo woo. Dozens of demonic auras spewed out and condensed into clouds. Then, a black arrow flew out with a dark light. Within the dark light, there was a dark yellow inscription on the armor. Puff, puff, puff. The flying arrow pierced through several demonic clouds. Every time it pierced through a demonic cloud, some of the dark yellow flames would be extinguished. In the end, the flying arrow was weakened, and the dark yellow inscriptions on the armor had completely disappeared. GGA. Huang Tong laughed coldly. Just as he was about to speak, the inscriptions on the arrow disappeared and revealed the color of a white bone. At the same time, there was the roar of a wandering soul. The bone arrow pierced through the air again. Huang Tong was shocked. He quickly shouted, Damn it, I forgot that you are a demonic Book Immortal. Seeing the bone arrow close in, Huang Tong quickly opened her mouth and spat out a mouthful of demonic energy. This demonic energy was different from before. When it landed on the bone arrow, it was like boiling water had been poured onto snow. Shwa! The screams of the wandering souls immediately disappeared and the power of the bone arrow disappeared. It flew a few dozen feet before turning into pieces of Xing Ming's chain and falling into the air. You don't cultivate the power of the moon and the stars. Along with this strange voice, another Book Immortal appeared from the void at the place where the arrow was shot out from. However, this Book Immortal was dressed differently from the other Book Immortals. He wore an archery outfit with a quiver at his waist and a bow in his hand. This Book Immortal looked at Huang Tong in disbelief. 6 arts. Seeing the Book Immortal next to him holding a flute and the Book Immortal in front of him holding a bow, Huang Tong suddenly realized. He whispered, Could it be that you are the Book Immortal's 6 arts incarnations? Since they were incarnations of the 6 arts, there were naturally 6 of them. Huang Tong quickly released his essence to look at Feng Wu. As expected, a Book Immortal on a horse had blocked Feng Wu. Who cares about the 6 arts and 5 laws? Taoist Witch didn't have much of an expression on his face. He said coldly and waved his hand. The sub-brush appeared in his hand and a ray of emerald light appeared at the tip of the brush. The pure power of life pointed between the brows of the Book Immortal holding the flute. The Book Immortal holding the flute saw the sub-brush passing by. Whether it was the void or the Xing Ming chains, there were faint green sprouts. A power of life that could destroy the devil chi in his body covered him. The Book Immortal was even more frightened. He didn't have time to play the flute and could only wave it to defend himself. Amidst the shrill sounds, hundreds and thousands of generals flew out. They all wielded their spears and swords to fight. At this moment, Taoist Witch was much more powerful than before. The continuous use of the Nirvana realm and soul bridge and the resurrection of Ziyi and Kaizhuxia allowed Taoist Witch to understand the profound meaning of life and death. Now that he was facing the Book Immortal's 6 arts incarnations, Taoist Witch's subbrush had already pointed at the life and death within 100 miles. In the wisps of emerald light, life and death were revealed. Taoist Witch seemed to have thousands of incarnations, controlling the life and death within 100 miles. In Taoist Witch's eyes, other than the laws of heaven and earth and the rules of the Book Immortal's punishment array, there were also the Xing Ming chains that formed a human shape according to the rhythm. At this moment, the Xing Ming chains formed a human shape. However, this human shape didn't have a soul and didn't care about life and death. Therefore, even though the subbrush wasn't big, it was 100 times more ferocious than the hand of heaven and earth. It killed all the generals of the 5 laws within 100 miles. Moreover, in a split second, the subbrush landed between the Book Immortal's brows. You can. Thank you to Sleepy McDull, Shrimp Adds Fire, Brick Moving Master, Yang Chenhui, 375,665, Book of Flight, Good account, Chuan Tong, Chief of Dongshan Village, Love coming in 3rd place, Daoist Xiao, and other fellow Taoists in the book review section. There are always some omissions, please forgive me. Chapter 5199. Pa. A faint green light appeared on the Book Immortal's forehead. Then, an indescribable horror appeared in the Book Immortal's eyes. He couldn't help but raise his flute and exclaim, "The forbidden body is indeed amazing." As soon as he said that, a green light shot up to the sky from the Book Immortal's forehead. The Book Immortal's body cracked in the green light. The fragments of the body were twisted into pieces by the power of life. However, at the moment when everything was annihilated, Daoist Witch saw it clearly again. A wisp of true qi mixed with blood patterns quietly disappeared into the void. Even Yabai's power of life couldn't kill it. No. Daoist Witch looked at the disappearing true qi and exclaimed, This doesn't seem to be the 6 arts avatars. This true qi contains a strong power of life. This is the 5 qi in the chest that the Book Immortal cultivates. When Daoist Witch realized this, Xiao Hua was fighting with the Book Immortal who appeared first. The Book Immortal was dressed as a warrior. After he couldn't defeat Xiao Hua with his bare hands, he took out a battle axe. The battle axe didn't look like a real immortal imperial weapon. It was just condensed by the Xing Ming chains. However, the battle axe was much more powerful than a normal spiritual weapon in the punishment array. Xiao Hua used the soaring dragon scissors several times. He could cut the battle axe in half or cut the Book Immortal in half. However, the moment the soaring dragon scissors left, both the battle axe and the Book Immortal recovered. Even if Xiao Hua activated his magical power to seal the nearby space, he couldn't stop the noble qi from seeping in. When Xiao Hua heard Daoist Witch's exclamation, he immediately realized what was going on. He laughed and waved his hands. Gotcha. Several thunderous sounds were heard. A 3-colored thunderous hand covered the Book Immortal out of thin air. Under the thunderous hand, the power of life and death created an illusion of reincarnation. The Book Immortal was shocked and exclaimed, "This is the Tao of life and death. You're just a Mahayana Tao cultivator. How can you control it?" The power of life and death fell. The space within hundreds of miles was bleak and silent. The Xing Ming chains faded and broke into colorless inscriptions. At the same time, the Book Immortal's body also cracked and faded. In the end, the inscriptions on the armor turned into scattered strokes, no longer as sharp as before. "Where do you think you're going?" Xiao Hua opened his mouth, and a golden thunderbolt struck the spot where the void was shattered. There, a blood-patterned true qi that was exactly the same as what Daoist Witch saw was quietly hiding in the void. However, before the thunderbolt fell, the blood-colored real qi shook strangely and suddenly disappeared. Just like when Xiao Hua discovered the abnormality earlier. Damn it! How could Xiao Hua not know that this was the result of the punishment array? He hurriedly shouted, "Fellow Daoist Wu is right. This is one of the 5 qi that the Book Immortal cultivates. In this punishment array, although the 5 qi can't be invincible, it's indestructible. We can destroy its form for a while, but as long as the true qi is not destroyed, we can never get out of the array." Feng Wu was already furious when he was blocked by the Book Immortal on horseback. He abandoned the Kunlun mirror and flapped his wings. The power of the stars and the moon surged out like a tide, turning into hundreds of stars and attacking the Book Immortal. The Book Immortal used the power of the punishment array to resist the impact of the stars, but the seemingly endless stars made him unable to fight back. Seeing that the 5 Qi clones were destroyed by Daoist Witch and Xiao Hua, the Book Immortal roared, "Why don't you come out and help me?" Oh. Feng Wu was taken aback and hurriedly looked to the left. Unfortunately, the shielding of this punishment formation was too powerful. Just as Feng Wu was about to find nothing, the sound of a sword rang out and a shocking sword light rushed out from behind him. It turned into a waterfall and fell on Feng Wu. Before the sword light fell, Feng Wu already felt a chill in his monster body. A tearing pain came from the surface of his body. So what if I can't be destroyed? Feng Wu roared and flapped his right wing. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The void trembled. After the chains of punishment surged out, the power of the stars and the moon turned into the shape of stars and went to meet the sword light. Boom, boom, boom. The sword light broke through the void and fell into the river of stars. Under the sword light, the stars were shattered one by one, and the space within 100 miles was torn into chaos. Roar. Behind Feng Wu, the Book Immortal on horseback roared. The horse under him suddenly expanded, and the Book Immortal's body merged into the horse, turning into a figure with the head of a human and the body of a horse. As soon as the figure appeared in the form of a beast cultivator, buzz. The void on the left began to distort. The figure raised its 4 hooves and suddenly passed through the power of the stars and the moon that was attacking him. It approached Feng Wu's back. The 4 hooves that were raised were covered with blood patterns and black gas as it stomped on Feng Wu. Feng Wu didn't expect the Book Immortal to be able to rush through the river of stars after transforming into the form of a human and the Book Immortal. Obviously, he was caught off guard. He flapped his left wing and a shadow appeared, trying to block the horse's hooves. However, under the horse's hooves, mountains and rivers were about to shatter. Feng Wu's shadow couldn't last long. In just a moment, the shadow turned into fragments of the power of the stars and the moon and was annihilated. Don't hurt my 5th brother. I'm coming. At this moment, the Thunder Immortal's thunderous voice sounded. A flash of lightning suddenly rushed out from the distance like a sword and stabbed straight at the Book Immortal's back. This. The Book Immortal was stunned on the spot when he saw another human Mahayana flying out. How is this possible? Normally, the Dawn Rain continent doesn't even have one tribulation transcendence. Where did so many supreme beings come from today? What scared the Book Immortal the most was that except for Xiao Hua, Feng Wu, and Huang Tong, these supreme beings were already in the punishment array. He didn't know where Daoist Sorcerer and the Thunder Immortal broke in from. Kunlun Mirror. The Book Immortal turned his eyes and looked at Feng Wu. However, the Thunder Immortal's sword of lightning arrived first and approached the Book Immortal in a few breaths. Damn it! The Book Immortal was surprised again and thought to himself, is this my punishment array or your family's punishment array? However, when the Book Immortal identified the rich power of life and death in the sword of lightning, he instantly understood something. Therefore, he simply ignored the Thunder Immortal and continued to stomp his horse's hooves. Boom! Almost at the same time, the Book Immortal's front hooves broke the shadow of Feng Wu's left wing and firmly stepped on Feng Wu's back. Under the front hooves, the space was torn apart and layers of awe-inspiring qi poured down. On Feng Wu's back, the brilliance of the stars and the moon shone brilliantly, but it was annihilated in a moment. Feng Wu roared and her huge monster body fell to the ground. Boom! Another loud sound was heard and more chains rushed out from the ground and bound Feng Wu's monster body. Of course, at the same time when Feng Wu fell, the Thunder Immortal's sword of lightning pierced deeply into the Book Immortal's body. In the roar, the power of life and death revealed a black and white vortex and destroyed the Book Immortal's body. Just as the Thunder Immortal expected, the wisp of true qi also disappeared strangely. The Thunder Immortal turned his eyes and looked at the sword light that cut Feng Wu's river of stars in half. A Book Immortal in a sword suit appeared, flashing with soaring sword intent. How dare you brandish your sword in front of me? You must be tired of living. The Thunder Immortal shouted proudly, even if you are a Book Immortal of the Heavenly Court, I will still kill you here. After saying that, the Thunder Immortal's body emitted the sound of thunder. Countless thunderbolts turned into sword light and poured down like a waterfall. In just a moment, the Thunder Immortal's body turned into a huge sword, and the thunderbolts were engraved on the huge sword like blooming spring flowers. Boom! The Sword Immortal was still in a daze as he raised his lightning sword. The sword intent was so ferocious that it overpowered the chains of the punishment formation. Not only did the chains within a radius of 100 miles split in half, but even the Sword Immortal's body was bent under the pressure of the sword intent. Clang! The Book Immortal in a sword suit was like a proud bamboo that would rather break than bend. He bent his waist for a moment, and then the sound of his sword rang out. A dazzling golden light rushed out from the pitch-black sword suit, and the Book Immortal also turned into a huge sword that was thousands of feet long. It tore through the sky and slashed toward the Thunder Immortal. Ka 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 ka. When the two giant swords collided, black and white light frantically gushed out from the point of contact. Then, the dazzling golden sword light collapsed like bamboo, one segment after another, one segment after another. When the golden light turned into nothingness, the Thunderbolt Immortal arrogantly revealed himself from the lightning. He coldly looked in a certain direction and indifferently said, I knew you were going to run. Along with this voice, several tiny thunderbolts surged out and pounced into the void in the distance. It's useless. Xiao Hua's voice rang out. This so-called punishment array has already become a nearly independent space. The laws here have already changed somewhat. Although these changes are very slight, they are still changes. They are not something we can achieve. Although we destroyed the Book Immortal's 5 avatars, he is an almost indestructible existence in this punishment array. If we don't break this punishment array. Not waiting for Xiao Hua to finish, boom, boom, boom. Earth-shaking rumbles once again resounded in the distance. The pillars that propped up heaven and earth once again grew in size. After a total of 81 chimes, the sound of chanting, the ear-piercing sound of horse hooves, and the blood-boiling sound of drums gradually resounded from the distance. Following the destruction of the 5 Chi avatars, the engraving chains, which had gradually weakened, once again grew in size. Ah ah! Xiao Hua didn't feel it before, but now he heard it clearly. The Fortune Gate's disciples, sword cultivators, and heavenly demon sex disciples on the Dawn Rain continent had begun to fall. The axe-like punishment chains ruthlessly swept through the space and landed on their bodies. Their weak true chi couldn't withstand it at all. Amidst a bloody mess, cold corpses fell on the snowy plains. Miserable screams came one after another. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote for a monthly vote, vote for a recommendation vote, bookmark, gift, and thank you for all kinds of support. Thank you to Sleepy McDull, Shrimpad Fire, Brick Moving Master, Yang Chenhui, 375665, Book of Flight, Good account, Chuan Tong, Dongshan Village's Head, Love Coming Third, Daoist Xiao, and other fellow Taoists in the book review section. There will always be some omissions, please forgive me. Chapter 5200. There were too many Fortune Gate disciples on the Dawn Rain mainland, but their strength was too weak. Although Li Xiang and Xiong Yi had urged the Fortune Gate disciples on the other 3 mainlands to protect the Dawn Rain mainland, they were powerless against the punishment formation that even Xiao Hua was at a loss of what to do. Xiao Hua glanced at Fairy Hongxia, Huang Mengxiang, and the others. He knew that they were still safe, so he waved his hand and took the Kunlun mirror from Feng Wu. He then flew to the top of the Sky Patrol City. He did not hide his cultivation, and his 1,000 feet tall avatar stood there like a god. Xiao Hua looked around and said, "Everyone, I'm Xiao Hua. I'm sure you're familiar with my name. You've all seen the situation today. No matter what your purpose is, or what you've done, this old man would like to thank everyone for coming to help. Now that we're in a life and death situation, we have to work together to defeat the enemy and break this punishment array." Spiritual Master Xiao. Kunlun Sect Master Xian Jing was the first to speak. He shouted, "Our strength is weak, and we can only defend in this formation. It's difficult for us to fight back. We've caused trouble for Spiritual Master. Please tell us, how should we break the formation? My Kunlun sect will listen to Spiritual Master's orders." It would be a lie to say that Xian Jing did not regret it. However, he had already made preparations and arrangements before he came to Sky Sentry City. Even if all the disciples of the Kunlun sect were killed, the Kunlun sect would not suffer too much damage. In order to return Xiao Hua's favor, Xian Jing knew that he had to listen to Xiao Hua's orders. "That's right." Spiritual Master Yang Yu immediately said, "We have troubled Spiritual Master before, and now we want to atone for our sins. If there's anything you need us to do, please let us know. We'll do our best." Immediately, many other sect masters also expressed their opinions. Xiao Hua saw this and smiled. "Since that's the case, then everyone listen to my orders. Form your battle teams and listen to the orders of my Fortune Gate disciples. Go to the punishment array and break out." "Yes." The group of sect leaders, including the sword cultivators, did not dare to be negligent. They all bowed and answered. "Wu." At this time, several thousand miles away, the 81 punishment pillars let out a whale-like roar. 81 bamboo slips as big as mountains rolled up from the ground and flew towards the crowd. Each time a bamboo slip was rolled up, the world would become a little bit more transparent. A space filled with inscriptions, bamboo slips, scrolls, ink brushes, mountains of text, and a sea of words would be revealed. Not good. Xiao Hua was inwardly alarmed. Knowing that there was a change in the rules of this punishment array, he dared not hesitate any longer. Activating the Kunlun mirror, groups of Fortune Gate's disciples flew out. These disciples all had cultivation of 4th grade and above, and standing in midair, they were not inferior to any sect's patriarch. Xian Jing and the others had previously thought that the Fortune Gate's disciples Xiao Hua had mentioned were Li Xiang's group, but when they saw such an awe-inspiring Fortune Gate's battle team that could sweep across the Dawn Rain mainland with a wave of their hand, they were dumbstruck. Disciples. Xiao Hua had already passed down the order in the space. At this time, he waved his hand in the distance and said, "Listen to my order, protect everyone and break the punishment array." "Yes." The Fortune Gate's disciples shouted in unison. "Disciples will obey sect master's order. This is my big brother Xiao. I knew you would have such a divine ability." Seeing so many nascent soul realm disciples respectfully listening to Xiao Hua's orders, Huang Mengxiang's face was flushed red with excitement. He clapped his hands loudly and stared fixedly at Xiao Hua, not wanting to shift his gaze away for even a second. "Oh my!" Li Zongbao, who had always been concise and comprehensive, couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. He looked at Kai Zhuxia and said, "Previously, I thought I knew junior brother Zhao's strength, but now, it seems like I still underestimated him. I vaguely heard the devil race say that Daoist Xiao is already a supreme expert of the human race." Kai Zhuxia's eyes also faintly lit up, and she said with admiration, "I don't know when I can cultivate to such a level." In order to avoid arousing suspicion, Yi Yin didn't go to the Heavenly Demon 3 sect's location. He carefully looked around, guarding Kai Zhuxia, Fairy Hong Xia, and the others. At this time, when he heard Kai Zhuxia mention it, he smiled and said, "Why is fellow Daoist envious? With Daoist Xiao here, fellow Daoist will cultivate to the peak sooner or later." Xiang Zhili and the others only listened, and it was rare that they didn't say anything. Their eyes looked around, and there was a trace of excitement on their faces. That's true. Kai Wuxia retracted her gaze, and looked at Fairy Hongxia, who had a strange expression on her face. She used her elbow to nudge her, and said with a smile, Hongxia, I really didn't expect you to have such a good eye. With Daoist Shao, our Kai family can do whatever we want in the Dawn Rain continent in the future, Fairy Hongxia lightly bit her lips, and her face was also filled with excitement. She looked at Xiaohua with incomparable passion in her eyes. However, there was a trace of confusion in this passion, as if everything in front of her was a dream. Swoosh! Just when Fairy Hongxia was feeling half awake, everyone's vision blurred. Xiaohua, who was like a god just a moment ago, turned into a stream of light and landed in front of them. Xiaohua waved the Kunlun mirror in his hand, and said to Fairy Hongxia, Hongxia, this punishment array is too dangerous. I have to focus on breaking the array, and I'm afraid I can't take care of you. In my hand is the Kunlun mirror, and within it is the Kunlun immortal realm. If it's possible, you can enter the Kunlun immortal realm with Wuxia, and it won't be too late for you to come out after I break the array. Unexpectedly, Fairy Hongxia looked at Xiaohua and didn't reply. Instead, she turned to Li Zongbao and said, Senior Li, what do you think? How could Li Zongbao be the type to back down? He raised his hand and waved the immortal slaughtering whip, and said proudly, Junior brother Xiao brought his own disciples out of the Kunlun immortal realm to break the array. They can fight a bloody battle, how can I be at ease alone? I'm not going to this Kunlun immortal realm. Fairy Hongxia smiled, and looked at Xiaohua, and said proudly, since Senior Li isn't going, then I won't go either. All right. Xiaohua already knew the outcome when Fairy Hongxia looked at Li Zongbao. He made a prompt decision, since that's the case, you all be careful. Black Bear, yeah, protect your mistress, don't let her get hurt. Yes. I understand. Yuan yet didn't dare to delay, and hurriedly bowed and answered. Black Bear's spirit shouted, don't worry, Sect Master. With me here, I won't let mistress lose a single strand of hair. Brother Xiao, there's still me. Huang Mengxiang didn't miss the opportunity to shout, I want to go to your Kunlun immortal realm. Xiaohua glared at Huang Mengxiang, and in a flash, he landed beside the sword gourd. Humph. You heartless person. Huang Mengxiang pouted, and stomped his feet in midair. He wanted to fly over, but he didn't dare to provoke Xiaohua. In a moment, thousands of nascent soul cultivators flew over, and surrounded them. The leading disciple bowed and said, I'm here on Sect Master's orders to protect the seniors, let's go. Yuanya saw Xiaohua flying away, and ordered the leading disciple. Yes. The disciple responded, and gave the order. A Pleiades demon devouring immortal array was formed, and under the disciple's command, it moved towards the north of Sky Patrol City. At this moment, the four spirits' blood curse had been completely broken, and the sword gourd spirit slaying vital light was only nailed to the fire dragon crystal. The silver tiger crystal from before had already merged with the fire dragon crystal. Xiaohua landed, and felt the rich yin and yang energy around the fire dragon crystal. He also saw two beams of spirit-slaying vital light falling from the crystal, Xiao Mao and Hanba. That was close. Xiaohua thought to himself with lingering fear, fortunately, Xiao Mao and Hanba are both inside the fire dragon crystal, and their bloodlines are somewhat similar, otherwise, the crystal would have collapsed long ago. At this point, the two of them should be fine, and they just need to wait for it to succeed. As he spoke, Xiaohua raised his hand, and the spirit-slaying vital light was quickly absorbed into the sword gourd, and then the sword gourd landed in Xiaohua's hand. Xiaohua looked around with some regret, and laughed, seems like that book immortal is also a coward, I placed the sword gourd here, and he didn't dare to take it. Book immortal naturally wouldn't agree, he had already seen through such a small trick, and it was impossible for him to take the bait. Xiaohua felt bored, and as the Kunlun mirror swayed, it absorbed the fire dragon crystal into the space, and then looked around for a moment, and asked in a low voice, what do you think is the difference between this punishment array and an ordinary demonic array? In front of the sect masters of the Dawn Rain continent, it was obviously not suitable for Demon Venerable Shi to appear, but he had already checked the punishment array without anyone noticing. Hearing Xiao Hua's question, Demon Venerable Shi hurriedly replied, "Big brother, this punishment array should be an extremely powerful immortal defense array, because it was set up by the Book Immortal, and on the Dawn Rain continent, the immortal defense array is restricted by the laws of the continent, and also limited by the materials, so it can only display 30% of its power. The most important thing is that the Dawn Rain continent doesn't have noble spirit, or rather, although there is noble spirit, this noble spirit can precipitate very little of the human race's literary chi, and it isn't enough to support the needs of the punishment array, so the Book Immortal has to rely on the 81 punishment pillars to maintain the punishment engraved chains and the laws of the array. Previously, when you were fighting with the Book Immortal's 5 chi incarnation, I had already carefully looked at the source of the punishment engraved chains, they all came from the 81 punishment pillars. If Big Brother wants to break the array, he has to push down the 81 punishment pillars. N. Xiao Hua nodded and said, although Big Brother didn't look carefully, he saw the bamboo slips coming out from the punishment pillars, and the Book Immortal wanted to change the rules of the punishment array, so Big Brother felt that these punishment pillars might be the array core of the punishment array. That's why Big Brother sent the Fortune Gate disciples to break the array. But, if that's the case, Big Brother should have pushed down the punishment pillars at the beginning, but now he missed the opportunity. No, no. Demon Venerable Shi hurriedly shook his head and said, these 81 punishment pillars need to be pushed down at the same time. Big Brother pushed them down first, there's no meaning. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, give it as a reward, and thank you for all kinds of support. Thank you to Starry Sky Recreation 8 and other fellow Taoists for your support. Chapter 5201. After saying that, Demon Venerable Shi hurriedly added, Big Brother, you underestimated this punishment array. Although this punishment array can only exert 30% of its power, since it was able to set up a punishment array near the Sky Patrol City, it's impossible for ordinary disciples to destroy it. Moreover, this Book Immortal was originally a human. Since he became a demon, he must have a motive. This punishment array is a punishment array of Confucian cultivators. Maybe it's the blood sacrifice array of the Book Immortal. Previously, when Xing Ming's chains twitched, many low-level disciples died. This little brother has already seen their flesh and souls being absorbed by Xing Ming's chains. Xiao Hua squinted his eyes and looked at the tide of people rushing to different parts of the punishment array under the command of the Fortune Gate disciples. He nodded slightly and said, looks like this Book Immortal really lives up to his name. In the 4 continents, I'm afraid only the Heaven Alliance, Tao Alliance, and Fortune Gate can break this punishment array. Even the Great Sage Temple, Dragon Island, Immortal Palace, and Thunder Temple can barely do it. Hee, that's right. Demon Venerable Shi chuckled and said, only Big Brother's Golden Crow Immortal Slaying Demonic Array can resist this punishment array. We can't do anything. Actually, that's not necessarily true. Xiao Hua had already made up his mind. He waved the Kunlun mirror in his hand and said, if it weren't for the fact that there are so many humans in the punishment array, we would have killed the enchanted Book Immortals one by one. I don't believe we can't kill him. Didn't Big Brother say that? Demon Venerable Shi laughed and said, all assumptions don't count. After all, if nothing happens. Boom, boom, boom. Xiao Hua activated the Kunlun mirror in his hand and hundreds of quasi-9 tribulation scattered souls flew out and formed the Golden Crow Immortal Slaying Demonic Array around Xiao Hua. Without waiting for Xiao Hua to say anything, the hundreds of scattered souls maintained the Golden Crow Immortal Slaying Demonic Array and flew in all directions. Damn it! As soon as the scattered nascent soul flew out, an exasperated voice came. In the sky, a Book Immortal holding a flying sword, a book immortal riding a black horse, a book immortal holding a flute in his hand, a book immortal with a quiver on his waist, and a book immortal holding an axe with his bare arm all appeared. The book immortal holding a flying sword in his hand could not help but say angrily, "How many supreme masters of the human clan are there in your Kunlun fairyland?" "I'm not sure." Xiao Hua shrugged and said, "Senior, if you want to know, you might as well come in and take a look." While speaking, Xiao Hua activated the Kunlun mirror. A five-colored light beam shot up into the sky and shone towards the book immortal holding the flying sword. Along with the sound of sizzling, the book immortal holding the flying sword broke into pieces. The face of the book immortal holding the flying sword changed drastically. His body swayed and flew to the side. When the book immortal with the flying sword moved, the other book immortals also scattered like birds and beasts. Ha! At this moment, the Thunder Immortal, Feng Wu, Huang Tong, and Daoist which all flew over and surrounded the 5 Qi doppelgangers. The Thunder Immortal laughed unreasonably and rubbed his hands together. Thick thunderbolts started to wreak havoc again. The Flying Sword Immortal saw that the thunderbolts were like tides and confined the space around him. How could he not know the intention of the Thunder Immortal? He roared angrily and waved his hands. Tens of thousands of book immortals' chains appeared in the space around him. Puff! The Flying Sword Immortal breathed a mouthful of true qi into the book immortals' chains. Immediately, the chains emitted a dazzling golden light. The book immortals' axe-shaped chains transformed into flying swords. Buzz, buzz. All the chains trembled and easily covered the space around the Thunder Immortal. Then, the Flying Sword Immortal's body swayed and a force that was beyond the 9th level of true qi appeared around him. Crack! As soon as this force appeared, the restrictive spells of heaven and earth fell from the sky. However, where the restrictive spells of heaven and earth fell, the book immortal's chains, which had transformed into flying swords, emitted dazzling sword light and blocked the power of law. My goodness! The Thunder Immortal was surprised and yelled, "You have such a divine ability?" The Flying Sword Immortal waved his hand and the thunderbolts disappeared bit by bit. They didn't even get close to the Flying Sword Immortal. The Flying Sword Immortal raised his hand and pointed a finger. A flying sword came from the sky and instantly covered the space within 100 miles. Wherever the sword light pointed at, everything was destroyed. The Flying Sword Immortal laughed wildly and said, "Haha, ignorant kid, you don't deserve to know the divine ability of a heavenly court immortal." Unfortunately, as soon as the Flying Sword Immortal finished speaking, the thunderbolts around the Thunder Immortal also surged. A force that was beyond the 9th level of true qi was released without fear. At the same time, the Thunder Immortal slapped the top of his head. Boom! 5-colored true qi mixed with thunderbolts flew out and condensed into a huge thunderous hand that was twice as powerful as before. As the huge hand grabbed at the air, all the sword lights within 100 miles dimmed. How is this possible? The Flying Sword Book Immortal was dumbfounded. However, just as he was lost in thought, Xing Ming's chains shattered, and the laws of heaven and earth fell like a waterfall, imprisoning the Flying Sword Book Immortal's divine ability. Of course, the divine ability on the Thunder Immortal's hand that surpassed that of the Dawn Rain continent also disappeared. Even so, the Flying Sword Immortal still couldn't escape the fate of being killed by the power of life and death. His entire body was shattered and turned into true qi. Of course, this result was beyond the Flying Sword Immortal's expectation. However, it was still acceptable. After all, as long as the punishment formation was not broken, he would be immortal. Unfortunately, the Flying Sword Immortal still underestimated the Thunder Immortal's insidiousness. The moment he turned into a wisp of true qi, the Thunder Immortal unfolded his Taoist robe. With a whoosh, a black and white light curtain fell from the sky. The spirit-killing vital light pierced through the punishment formation and pierced into the void. Ah! A hoarse scream was heard in the void. At the place where the spirit-killing vital light was torn, a wisp of true chi engraved with strange bloodstains was revealed. A primordial spirit in the shape of a human was vaguely hiding in the true chi. The spirit-killing vital light was nailed to the head of this human figure. Just as I expected. The Thunder Immortal smiled and pointed at the sword gourd. With a light crack, the spirit-killing vital light pierced through the head of the human figure and cut off its head. The Flying Sword Immortal's primordial spirit was killed. The other primordial spirits were all in a panic. They didn't dare to hesitate anymore and tried to fly away. Unfortunately, since they had found the way to kill the primordial spirit of the Book Immortal, how could Xiao Hua and the others let these 5 Qi avatars escape? Feng Wu, Huang Tong, and Taoist priest-sorcerer all sneered and blocked the other avatars. These avatars saw that they were no match for Xiao Hua and the others, so they all used their magical powers to resist. However, in the face of an opponent who was stronger than them and the spirit-killing vital light, the other 4 avatars were killed in a short time. Since the Book Immortal's 5 Qi clones had been killed, the entire punishment formation changed once again. The 100,000 snowy plains under the control of the punishment formation shook violently, and the bamboo slips that destroyed everything in the bamboo slips began to collapse. The inscriptions on the armor, the bamboo slips, the scrolls, the ink brushes, the mountains of literature, the seas of words, and other objects that covered the world also began to be destroyed. Humph, humph, around the punishment array, cold snorts sounded one after another. Xiao Hua was shocked. He raised his head and saw that the punishment pillars around the punishment array had already transformed into human forms. Every human form had the appearance of a Book Immortal. Seeing this, Xiao Hua was not shocked but happy. He said coldly, "Since the punishment formation has revealed its true form, how can you escape?" Human Mahayana Realm. The 81 Book Immortals spoke at the same time. I didn't expect that the Dawn Rain continent, where Taoism is declining, would have an anomaly like you. However, since you forced me to appear, it's time for you to die. Oh. Xiao Hua was taken aback. He looked at the 81 indomitable Book Immortals and then looked at the hundreds of scattered nascent souls who were still maintaining the Golden Crow Immortal slaying demonic formation. He was extremely puzzled. After all, when he released the scattered nascent souls, he didn't hide it from the avatars. How could the true body of the Book Immortal not know? Before Xiao Hua could think about it, he saw the Book Immortal's body near the Book Immortal. However, this time, the Immortal's chains did not jump into the punishment formation. Instead, they broke apart in the air and turned into numerous Immortals' axes. These tens of millions of Immortals' axes circled in the air for a moment and quickly fell on the Book Immortal's child body. In just a moment, the child body turned into a huge axe. In my name, I punish the world. 81 earth-shaking voices were heard. The 81 Immortals' axes were activated at the same time. The sharp blades cut through the air and the entire punishment formation shrunk toward the center. Seeing that the punishment formation was shrinking, the faces of the hundreds of scattered nascent soul cultivators turned solemn. They raised their hands in unison and formed an immortal art. Layers of bright silver light emanated from their bodies, and thunderous forces condensed in the Golden Crow Immortal slaying demon formation, ready to be unleashed. Xiao Hua flew in the air and looked around coldly. He said loudly, "Those who send out their troops with a reason are invincible. How can those who send out their troops without a reason be victorious? Those who control the punishment of the heavens and do righteous things will never be defeated. Those who act rashly because of selfish desires will harm the harmony of the heavens and harm the benefits of the earth. Heaven and earth must kill them. Everyone, listen to my command, kill to stop killing. Kill." The hundreds of scattered souls roared. The power of thunder borrowed the momentum of the Golden Crow Immortal slaying demon formation to produce the power of thunder punishment. The hundreds of thunderbolts met the 81 Immortal slaying demon formation. When the punishment formation met the demon formation, the heavens and earth shook. The entire space of 10,000 miles fell into a kind of dusk. The originally clear sky was now filled with fierce winds. Large patches of dark clouds covered the already pale sun. Not only that, huge cracks appeared in the sky. Hail, wind, and thunder mercilessly fell. Looking at the ground again, dozens of huge cracks also appeared on the snowy plains. As the cracks expanded with a rumbling sound, mountain rocks burst and snowy peaks collapsed. Layers of strange underground wind also soared into the sky and intertwined with the heavenly wind. It was as if countless large hands were tearing the heavens and earth apart. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidien to subscribe to support, vote for a monthly vote, vote for a recommendation vote, bookmark, and reward. Thank you for all forms of support. Chapter 5202. Although there was a strange phenomenon between heaven and earth, Xiao Hua and the others stood in mid-air with joy on their faces. Because the 81 copies of the book Fairy were no match for Xiao Hua's hundreds of quasi-ninth tribulation scattered nascent souls. Under the life-or-death blow of the two formations, the 81 axes were smashed into pieces. When the 81 punishment pillars fell, the punishment formation was also destroyed by Xiao Hua. All the previous illusions turned into nothingness, and the punishment formation that covered tens of thousands of miles in the direction of the sky-patrolling city also disappeared like smoke. Good. The leaders of the various sects on the Morning Rain continent finally let out a long sigh of relief. They felt like they had survived a disaster. However, the faces of Xiao Hua and the others did not relax at all, because he and Feng Wu had already released their divine thoughts and saw clearly within tens of thousands of miles. When the punishment formation was destroyed, no primordial spirit or genuine chi escaped from the 81 punishment pillars. If the demonized book Fairy was not destroyed with the punishment pillars, then the demonized book Fairy was not in the punishment formation at all. Ah! An obscure groan sounded between heaven and earth. The source of the sound was the sword tomb. However, after the sound was heard, the color of the entire world changed. A majestic, austere, and submissive aura spread rapidly from the source of the sound. The sky, which had fallen into chaos and disorder due to the collision between the punishment formation and the golden crow fairy slaying demonic formation, instantly became orderly. All the broken cracks in the void produced inscription chains. The torn clouds also stagnated and quietly took shape one by one. Some were characters, some were bamboo joints. Even on the ground, the torn gullies and abysses surged with noble chi at the same time. This noble chi was slightly different from before. There was a trace of golden light in it, and the rich precipitation of human culture gave out a kind of decay and antiquity. This noble chi did not condense into inscription chains, but turned into the shape of mountains, paving the way for the broken ground. After a deafening groan, the world fell silent again. No one dared to make a sound. They all held their breaths and didn't even dare to breathe loudly. The sky gradually turned into the law of punishment. The law of punishment was mixed with bamboo, giving off a suffocating aura. The earth gradually turned into the law of punishment. After when Shan condensed, pillars of Aoran chi silently spread out like pillars of punishment. The aura that made people tremble leaked out from the pillars of punishment. Admittedly, Xiao Hua had also cultivated Confucian cultivation and had already reached the stage of 5 chi's unifications. However, he didn't comprehend more about the divine ability of punishment and didn't understand what this heavenly punishment and earthly punishment meant. However, seeing the strangeness of the world, how could he not know that a great calamity of life and death would follow? Xiao Hua inwardly cursed, then raised his voice. Fellow Taoists, Fortune Gate disciples, form the Metropolis Star Formation. Following Xiao Hua's command, the inexplicable space under the sword tomb where the demonic Confucian cultivators had flown out was still filled with black gas. Boom boom boom. At this moment, the pitch black and blood-red color suddenly boiled. It was like a myriad of streams returning to their origin as they surged towards a certain spot in space. When the black chi and blood-red color in space disappeared, a human-shaped shell that was 10,000 feet in size was revealed. This body was covered by black chi. Within the black chi, there were countless blood tattoos that swam like spiritual snakes. Under the black chi and blood tattoos, there was a faint golden color that pierced out. The pitch-black and blood-red color fell into the human-shaped shell and covered it again. Countless devil and blood tattoos surged, and a huge battle armor was born. The face of the human-shaped shell was still covered by black chi, and no one could see its true appearance. However, at this time, two sharp sword-like eyes appeared from the devil chi and pierced through the devil chi. A pair of golden eyes appeared in the devil chi. At first, there was a layer of confusion in the eyes, but it quickly turned cold. The huge body slowly sat up, and with every inch it sat up, the entire space trembled a little. The heaven and earth in the vicinity of Sky Patrol City was so quiet that no one dared to disturb the order of heaven and earth. Xiao Hua's order resounded between heaven and earth. It was so loud and so bold. The majesty in this voice was no less than the heaven punishment and earth punishment that was formed previously. Everyone suddenly broke free from the heaven punishment and earth punishment. Yes. The group of Fortune Gate disciples responded in unison. Their respectful voices also reverberated through heaven and earth, breaking the invisible order. Woo woo woo. Before the Fortune Gate disciples could move, there was a strange phenomenon in the sky. In the direction of the Sword Tomb, tens of thousands of layers of red clouds rushed out and turned into tassels that covered the horizon. Not long after, the red clouds turned into the shape of a Confucian crown. The pressure on the Confucian crown was so heavy that it seemed as if the sky could not hold it. Boom! The Confucian crown fell and made a huge rumbling sound. Then, the earth trembled, the hills collapsed, and a surge of evil chi rushed out from the ground. A black shadow that was thousands of feet tall slowly stood up from the ground. Every time this black shadow moved, the earth would tremble, and the laws of heaven and earth in the sky, which were invisible to the naked eye, would fall down once. Book Immortal. Xiao Hua narrowed his eyes and stood up. The surging aura had already flooded over. This aura seemed to be more powerful than Su Ji's and Fairy Xingyu's immortal spiritual energy. If it was under normal circumstances, Xiao Hua might have activated the light escape art to escape. It was unwise to fight this book immortal who had turned into a demon. However, Xiao Hua was unable to abandon the several million Fortune Gates disciples and the 3 Dao's disciples, not to mention his lover, his family, and his brothers and sisters in the Fortune Gate. After a powerful divine sense swept over, 2 beams of clear light that could see through the mysteries of heaven and earth swept over. Xiao Hua and the Thunderbolt Immortal were already in their eyes. Xiao Hua knew that this was the birth of the Book Immortal, so he didn't have time to put the cultivators on the ground into his space. Without any hesitation, he waved his hand and said, "Fellow Taoists, let's go, darling Xiao, be careful." Before the Thunderbolt Master and the others could say anything, a weak voice sounded in the distance. Xiao Hua looked up and saw Fairy Hongxia standing among the Fortune Gate disciples, shouting with all her might. Xiao Hua took a deep breath, and the gloominess in his heart was swept away. He nodded slightly at Fairy Hongxia, and there was only determination in his eyes. "Big brother Xiao, I love you." Huang Mengxiang's voice rang out. "When you kill the devil race, I will definitely marry you and become your Tao companion. I will wait for you to return victorious." If anyone else heard these words, they would definitely be overjoyed. However, when Xiao Hua heard these words, his heart couldn't help but tighten. Fortunately, Xiao Hua looked at Fairy Hongxia. Other than indifference, Fairy Hongxia's face was graceful, as if she didn't care about Huang Mengxiang's words at all. Xiao Hua's heart relaxed. He waved his hand at Fairy Hongxia and ordered, "Fellow Taoists, Fortune Gate disciples, listen to my orders. Protect the Dawn Rain Continent's human disciples and retreat towards the south. Fellow Taoists, help me to defend against the enemy. Yes. The disciples replied in unison. More than 100 scattered nascent soul cultivators prepared to retreat. However, at this moment, boom boom boom. The earth and sky changed again. Countless red lotus-shaped flames surged out and surrounded all the cultivators. The hundreds of scattered nascent soul cultivators didn't dare to be negligent. They hurriedly formed the capital Heaven Star formation to block the red and black flames. Red Lotus Karmic Fire. Seeing this, Xiaohua couldn't help but cry out, this book immortal who has turned into a devil, how does he know about the Red Lotus Karmic Fire? It's useless to say this now. Huang Tong looked at the book immortal who was walking towards them from afar. With every step he took, the earth trembled. A rare solemn expression appeared on Huang Tong's face as he said word by word, only by killing the book immortal can we escape from today's death. That's right. Xiaohua knew what Huang Tong said was right. He nodded. Looking at the hundreds of scattered nascent soul cultivators, he said helplessly, fellow Taoists, this Red Lotus Karmic Fire is different from the ones we encountered. If you don't form the formation, I'm afraid they won't be able to resist for even a moment. I'll leave these human cultivators to you. After the scattered nascent soul cultivators nodded, Xiaohua urged his figure to fly towards the sword tomb. Seeing that Xiaohua had left, the hundreds of scattered nascent soul cultivators formed the capital Heaven Star formation to resist the Red Lotus Karmic Fire and slowly retreated towards the south of the Sky Patrol City. The Red Lotus Karmic Fire was very strange. It actually followed the capital Heaven Star formation and constantly devoured it. Just as Xiaohua said, this Red Lotus Karmic Fire was different from the Red Lotus Karmic Fire that Xiaohua encountered before. Even the capital Heaven Star formation formed by hundreds of quasi-ninth tribulation scattered nascent soul cultivators could not completely resist the invasion of the karmic fire. Within the capital Heaven Star formation, all the cultivators were tortured by their own karma. It was a kind of torture and a kind of training. The hundreds of quasi-ninth tribulation scattered nascent soul cultivators were already the most powerful force in the 4 major continents. With their protection, Xiaohua could rest assured. He urged his figure and led the Thunderbolt Immortal, Feng Wu, and the others forward. Seeing that they were close, Xiaohua and the others looked at each other and stood in different directions. Thump, thump, thump. The footsteps of the enchanted book immortal were like huge hammers that knocked on everyone's hearts. The threatening aura became stronger and stronger. In particular, Xiaohua had already seen clearly that near the body of the enchanted book immortal, the void collapsed and the light and shadow distorted. Layers of heaven and earth restriction formations fell all the time. Every time a restriction formation of heaven and earth fell into the body of the enchanted book immortal, the aura that surpassed the 9th level of origin power was annihilated. However, in just a moment, the black gas surged and the golden threads boiled. The aura that was not allowed by the 4 major continents surged out again. The aura of the enchanted book immortal was so strong that the light and shadow were distorted. Xiaohua could not see the appearance of the enchanted book immortal clearly. He could only see the vague Confucian crown and armor of the enchanted book immortal, the quiver on his waist, and the sword in his hand. However, since he had seen the 5 Qi avatars of the enchanted book immortal, Xiaohua could somewhat distinguish the appearance of the enchanted book immortal. Looking at the ground under the enchanted book immortal, it seemed that the ground could not bear the weight of the book immortal. With every step the enchanted book immortal took, the ground would collapse for hundreds of feet. At this point, not only was the sword tomb destroyed, but even the snowfield from the sword tomb to the Sky Patrol City was also destroyed. Heaven and earth were in a mess. P.S. Fellow cultivators who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, give it a recommendation vote, collect it, and reward it. Chapter 5203. Who are you? When the enchanted book immortal approached, Xiaohua stood in front of him and asked in the language of the hidden immortal continent, "Why did you destroy the Dawn Rain continent? Why did you destroy the bloodline of the human race? Could it be that you are not a human?" Ha ha ha. The enchanted book immortal laughed wildly. As the light and shadow flickered, two clear lights appeared. The clear lights landed on Xiaohua's golden body. The golden light of Xiaohua's golden body flickered like a candle in the wind. "Who are you? Since you're the disciple of an immortal in the immortal world and have the strength to ascend to the immortal world, why are you still here worrying about irrelevant things? Don't you know that ascension is about understanding karma? You're tainted with so much karma, how can you get rid of the burden and ascend?" As he spoke, the enchanted book immortal glanced at Huang Tong, Feng Wu, and Taoist witch. He frowned and said, "The three of you are even weirder. Two of you have the body of a demon, and one of you is a taboo of the witch tribe. Why are you following this Taoist cultivator to cause trouble here? Also, why does your essence chi look so similar to this human cultivator? If it weren't for your strength surpassing this Taoist cultivator, I would have treated you as one." Essence? Xiaohua's heart skipped a beat. He seemed to have understood something. Essence was not something that mortal cultivators could know. Xiaohua had learned it from the mouth of the unrestrained heavenly demon in the ruins. He also knew that essence was the foundation of a cultivator's cultivation and the most important foundation for cultivating a clone. In particular, Xiaohua had not heard this term from Su Ji and Fairy Xingyu. Therefore, he was certain that not many immortals in the immortal world knew about essence energy. Since the demonized book immortal had mentioned essence energy, he must have obtained a secret technique related to essence energy. Xiaohua even boldly speculated that the demonized book immortal's blood sacrifice in the immortal world and the Dawn Rain continent might have been for essence energy. So Xiaohua asked tentatively, "What is essence? Who are you? How can you understand my language?" The enchanted book immortal asked, "And you have the opportunity to meet an immortal who has a grudge with me?" Xiaohua pondered for a moment and replied, "This poor Taoist has never changed his name, nor has he changed his surname. May I know your name?" "He he." The enchanted book immortal chuckled and said, "You're quite thoughtful. You seem to want to know more about me. I don't mind telling you that my name is Inkue." Inkue. Xiaohua hurriedly tried to recall this name from the ancient records of Confucian cultivators. Unfortunately, before Xiaohua could think of anything, Inkue asked again, "Since you are the disciple of those two immortals, let me ask you, where are they now?" Xiaohua did not answer immediately. Instead, he collected his thoughts and looked straight at Inkue. He knew that the reason why Inkue had told him so much and even told him his name was because he wanted to know the whereabouts of Su Ji and Fairy Xingyu. If he gave a bad answer, it might cause a bad reaction. However, Xiaohua couldn't help but laugh after thinking about it. At this point, do I still have a choice? Could it be that if he answered the book immortal well, he wouldn't have to fight the book immortal? Since this battle was unavoidable, why should he overthink it? Therefore, Xiaohua said faintly, "I'm Xiaohua. Although I'm not the disciple of the two immortals, the two seniors have given me pointers in my cultivation. As for the two juniors, I don't want to hide it from them. They have already returned to the immortal world." Ha! Inkue laughed, but there was a hint of sadness in his laughter. He said, "In that case, what else do I have to worry about? Give me your lives." As he spoke, Inkue waved his hand and raised his sword. A sword intent that seemed to collapse instantly enveloped Xiaohua. Of course, as soon as the sword intent was born, the law of the realm fell again, weakening the unparalleled sword intent by more than 40%. Seeing the sword intent fall back into the law of the Dawn Rain continent, Xiaohua calmed down and said coldly, "Even if the two seniors of the immortal world are here, do you have any scruples? Don't you have any scruples when facing me? Where is the kindness in your heart?" "Huh, not bad, not bad." Inkue waved his sword and leisurely made a sword flower with his wrist. He laughed wildly and said, "Since I was able to injure them in the upper realm, why should I be afraid of them here?" Before Inkue waved his sword, the Thunder Immortal roared, "Little bastard, give me your life." Then, Lei Tingzi waved his hand and took out the sword gourd. The layer of black and white brilliance that covered the sword gourd was clear and beautiful. As the Thunder Immortal made a hand seal and touched the sword gourd, a black and white object with a nose and eyes appeared. Swish! When the black and white object opened its eyes, a black and white light screen rushed out of the sword gourd, as if it wanted to cover the whole world. This light screen seemed to be able to split the heaven and earth. It tore Inkue's monstrous ferocious aura apart, and the black and white brilliance quickly and violently stabbed toward the top of Inkue's head. Hee, you can actually refine such a ferocious spirit-slaying light. It's really not easy. Inkue was not too surprised by the spirit-slaying light. He even said to the Thunder Immortal in a somewhat mocking tone, "However, if you want to use this thing to kill me, you're dreaming." As he spoke, Inkue slapped the top of his head. Boom, boom, boom. With a deafening roar, 5 streams of true chi gushed out like the Milky Way. What was special was that in the middle of the 5 streams of true chi, a half-petal-shaped scroll appeared. Although this petal-shaped scroll only had an outline and was only half a petal-shaped scroll, an incomparably vast aura gushed out from this outline. Gotcha! Before the aura gushed out, the laws of heaven and earth fell, trying to imprison this aura that did not belong to the Dawn Rain continent. Seeing this, Inkue sneered and did not do anything. Swish! The scroll flipped, and the half-petal-shaped scroll opened and closed. The dense aura no longer gushed out violently. Instead, it spun and spread in all directions. As the aura spun, the 5 streams of true chi also changed rapidly, slowly turning into 5 huge whirlpools that spread out in all directions. Xiaohua's spirit-slaying light, which could tear heaven and earth apart, did not wait for it to fall on the top of Inkue's head. The entire black and white light screen twisted extremely, and when it barely fell, it fell on the half-petal-shaped scroll. Following the birth and death of the flower and the flipping of the scroll, the black and white spirit-slaying light could not pierce it no matter what. 3 flowers at one's prominence. Xiaohua's Confucian cultivation had already reached the level of 5 qis unifying in origin. Moreover, his literary works were the works of many sages. Before seeing the 3 flowers at one's prominence, Xiaohua might not have known that this was the 3 flowers at one's prominence. However, when he saw the half-petal-shaped scroll on top of Inkue's head, he immediately knew that this should be the 3 flowers at one's prominence cultivated by the Heavenly Court's Book Immortals. Damn it! Seeing that the spirit-slaying light had no effect, the Thunderbolt Immortal was furious. He urged his magic power, and above the sword gourd, the black and white light screen spun rapidly. With a rumbling sound, the spirit-slaying light rushed out, almost covering the surrounding area of several hundred miles. Unfortunately, no matter how much the Thunderbolt Immortal urged, the spirit-slaying light could only hover above the outline of the petal-shaped scroll, like the spring breeze that cherishes flowers. In the end, it could not fall. I don't believe it. The Thunderbolt Immortal was even more furious. With a loud roar, he withdrew the spirit-slaying light. With a wave of his hands, lightning surged around his body. Countless lightning bolts turned into a giant hand that covered the sky and the earth, and fell down, trying to imprison Inkue. However, something happened that made Xiaohua even more dumbfounded. The Thunderbolt Immortal's invincible lightning hand had just fallen near Inkue when it suddenly began to be annihilated, like a decaying lightning flower, withered. What's going on? The Thunderbolt Immortal was completely dumbfounded. Xiaohua squinted his eyes. He had already understood what was going on. When the Thunderbolt Immortal's lightning hand fell, a strange fluctuation appeared around Inkue's body. This fluctuation was like a light shadow, invisible and intangible. When the lightning touched this light shadow, it immediately disappeared. Xiao Hua's heart skipped a beat, and he asked indifferently, "It seems like you were hiding near the sword mound." No wonder the sword mound was not struck by lightning. "Huh, you have a good eye." Inkue did not deny it. He laughed and said, "This old man wanted to use the sword energy and evil energy of the sword mound to heal my injuries. Who would have thought that the sword mound would disappear for no reason? This is really disappointing." Speaking up to here, Inkue spun his hand and said, "However, this old man is also very lucky to have another kind of luck. And now, you have delivered yourself to me. Presumably, you are cultivators who have already touched the laws of heaven and earth. You are more useful than ordinary cultivators in the mortal world, right?" While speaking, Inkue pushed the Confucian crown on his head. Boom, boom, boom. Another 5 muffled sounds were heard. 5 pure Xiantian true qi spurted out and fell on the half-petal. Swish. That half-petal was like a butterfly spreading its wings. On the scroll, golden and dazzling inscriptions surged out. Kacha. Although the laws of heaven and earth kept falling, these inscriptions still disappeared in the 5 huge whirlpools. Woo, woo. At the same time, a strange clear light flew out from the whirlpools. Following the clear light were tens of millions of inscriptions of different sizes. These inscriptions were different from the golden and dazzling inscriptions from before. They were 9 different colors. These inscriptions seemed to have a life of their own. They flew everywhere with great spiritual energy, and wherever they landed, they tore apart the light curtain emitted by the whirlpools. Stars appeared one after another. These stars were abnormally bright. Mountains gushed out one after another. These mountains were graceful spirit bell spirits. Rivers flowed by, and these rivers were crystal clear. Not good. Xiao Hua was shocked. His figure flashed, and he seemed to fly away. However, when he saw that the stars were high and the sky was boundless, Xiao Hua smiled bitterly. The Book Immortal was indeed the Book Immortal. He was not someone a cultivator in the mortal world could compare to. In just a moment, he had already fallen into the Book Immortal's domain. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote for a monthly vote, vote for a recommendation vote, bookmark, and reward. Thank you for all kinds of support. Thank you to Alliance Master Taoist Xiao, Yi no Joy no Sorrow, Kai Gui Hun, and other fellow Taoists for their rewards. Chapter 5204. Xiao Hua pondered for a moment and was about to land. Boom, boom, boom. There was another roar from the ground. The snow region collapsed, and the sky patrolling city collapsed. Waves of noble spirit gushed out with the inscriptions on the armor. In just a moment, the realm of vicissitudes had appeared within tens of thousands of miles. Moreover, under the mountain walls, faint starlight poured out from time to time. In the brilliant Milky Way, the capital star formation formed by more than 100 scattered nascent souls decorated it like stars. The karmic fire of the red lotus was like a star flame, bright red. The world is vast, and all the land belongs to the king. All the people on the land are the king's subjects. Xiao Hua, seeing that I'm here, why don't you surrender? Inkue laughed. Under the light of the stars and moon, an emperor's outfit appeared. This emperor's outfit was similar to the one Xiao Hua had seen before, but there were some black threads on the side of the mountains and rivers. However, even so, Inkue's appearance was still covered by the pearl crown. Xiao Hua's Dharma eyes could not see through it. Moreover, as Inkue laughed, the emperor's qi rushed towards Xiao Hua like a tide. If an emperor's heart is for the people, even if he is high up in the palace, the people will still have him. If an emperor's heart is not for the people, even if he is the son of heaven, the people will still kill him. Xiao Hua said coldly, "You must know that water can carry a boat, but it can also sink it." Oh. Inkue was stunned and said in surprise, "This is the way of the king of Confucian cultivators. How can an unorthodox Taoist like you know? So what if I know? So what if I don't know?" The thunderbolt immortal laughed and raised his hand, holding the heaven-reaching staff in his hand. He said arrogantly, "I knew that killing you is the real way of the king." As he spoke, the thunderbolt immortal's body swayed and rushed towards Inkue. "He has the emperor's chi, and I have all the people. Who can I be afraid of?" Huang Tong also laughed. She flapped her wings and a strong and strange soul force rushed out and attacked Inkue. Feng Wu sneered and flapped her wings. Boom! 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 Countless cracks appeared in the starry sky as the true power of the stars and the moon shattered the vast space. Then, as Feng Wu waved her sharp claws, she attacked Inkue. When he looked at Taoist Witch again, a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. His body began to manifest, and a huge human face and snake body appeared. Wasn't that the torch dragon wizard body? The torch dragon shaman body was crimson red, and there were faint images of the sun and the moon rotating around its body. Its sharp claws had already transcended space and were thrusting toward the back of Inkue's head. "Hee, you are indeed powerful." Inkue sneered. Facing four powerful opponents whose strength surpassed the laws of heaven and earth, he did not panic at all. He raised his hand and pushed his pearl crown again. Boom! 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 5 deep roars sounded, and 5 streams of natal vital chi of different colors rushed into the sky. The 5 streams of natal vital chi were distorted in the sky, and they did not stop at all. They rushed into the vortex in the sky that was gradually disappearing. When the natal vital chi disappeared, buzz. 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 Buzzing sounds were heard again, and 5 streams of great chi fell, blocking the thunderbolt immortal, Feng Wu, Huang Tong, and Taoist Witch. One of them even fell in front of Xiao Hua. The great chi streams quickly converged and formed into 5 chi doppelgangers that looked exactly like the book immortal in the blink of an eye. Of course, these 5 doppelgangers were completely different from the previous 5. The aura around them was only slightly weaker than that of Inkue, and was almost the same as that of the thunderbolt immortal. "How dare you compete with me, a country bumpkin?" Facing the thunderbolt immortal, the book immortal snorted, and his clothes were revealed. As he waved his hand, several streams of great chi were generated from the void, and they fell in the air and condensed into a sword. This sword was exactly the same as the one in Inkue's hand, and it shone with a colder light. Streaks of bloody aura were emitted from the sword, and no one knew how many lives had been killed by this sword. "Do you have the guts to be a noble? Today, I will kill you, you little bastard, and become a noble myself." The Thunderbolt Immortal was indeed someone who had quarreled with Wen Chu before, and he was able to come up with a counterattack. The heaven-reaching staff tore through the void and smashed toward the sword-wielding Book Immortal. The sword-wielding Book Immortal waved his sword proudly and rushed forward to meet the attack. Puff! As expected, when the heaven-reaching staff hit the sword, a yellow light appeared on the sword. The light was shattered, and so was the sword. However, just as the light was shattered, countless streams of great chi condensed, and the sword was reformed in an instant. The Thunderbolt Immortal knew that this was the effect of Inkue's space domain. He smiled bitterly in his heart, and he could only shake the heaven-reaching staff in his hand. The end of the staff shook, and it smashed toward the sword-wielding Book Immortal's shoulder. The sword-wielding Book Immortal was Inkue's doppelganger. Seeing the change in the staff's tail, he did not hesitate to shake his sword, and a sword flower appeared at the tip of the sword. The sword quickly flew over and tried to block the heaven-reaching staff. Right at this moment, the Thunderbolt Immortal grinned hideously. He shook his left hand, and the sword gourd flew out again. Whoosh! The black and white curtain of light soared into the sky again, and an overwhelming aura of life and death fell on the sword-wielding Book Immortal's head. Unexpectedly, the sword-wielding book immortal slapped his own head when he saw the spirit-slaying light falling on him. Boom! 5 streams of true qi similar to Inkue's gushed out. They were not as rampant as Inkue's Xiantian true qi, but the outline of a half-petal-shaped scroll was also revealed. The spirit-slaying light was blocked by the petals again. Damn it! The Thunderbolt Immortal completely gave up on the idea of using the spirit-slaying light. He cursed in a low voice and sent the sword gourd into Xiao Hua's space. In front of Xiao Hua stood another doppelganger of the Book Immortal. This doppelganger was holding an axe, and it looked similar to the one Xiao Hua had met before. However, Xiao Hua did not pay attention to this doppelganger. Instead, he squinted his eyes and looked at Inkue and the other fighting groups. Seeing that Xiao Hua did not make a move, the axe-wielding Book Immortal did not dare to act rashly. He vigilantly released a magical power similar to divine thoughts and watched carefully. The other 3 Book Immortals were similar to the doppelganger of the Book Immortal that had appeared in the punishment array. One of them held a flute and fought with Feng Wu, while the other one held a bow and arrow and fought with Huang Tong. These 2 fights were very normal, and there was no clear winner or loser. However, the Book Immortal with the head of a man and the body of a horse was now crazily colliding with the candle dragon that was transformed by Taoist Witch. They were like meteors tearing through the sky, and half of the vast space was filled with their crazy surging great qi. Whether it was Taoist Witch or the Centaur Book Immortal, flesh and blood were torn apart from time to time. However, in such a tragic situation, Xiao Hua could still see that Taoist Witch had the upper hand. He was just using the power of the Centaur Book Immortal to find out how to break the space that was condensed by Inkue. Xiao Hua's gaze moved from the battle to the axe-wielding Book Immortal in front of him, and his eyes revealed a thoughtful look. He had already understood that the 5 Qi doppelganger in the punishment array was just the condensation of the 5 doppelgangers of Inkue, and it might even be the condensation of the 5 doppelgangers. The 5 doppelgangers in front of him were the real doppelgangers of Inkue. Judging from the strength of the 5 doppelgangers, Inkue must have obtained some kind of secret technique that allowed him to learn the profound meaning of doppelgangers. He started to cultivate from the profound qi, and that was how he was able to create 5 powerful doppelgangers. In other words, Inkue and Xiao Hua had similar opportunities. However, Xiao Hua had obtained the profound qi from the heavenly demon of freedom, while Inkue had to use evil means to collect the profound qi from other creatures. Feeling that the Thunderbolt Immortal had sent the sword gourd back into the vast space, Xiao Hua stopped thinking and slightly raised his head. Seeing Xiao Hua move, the axe-wielding Book Immortal trembled. Obviously, he was frightened by Xiao Hua's previous killing. Like a frightened bird, he roared and rushed toward Xiao Hua. Humph! Xiao Hua snorted coldly and waved his hand to take out the Kunlun mirror from the vast space. Huh! Inkue had already taken the initiative, so he was not in a hurry to make a move. Instead, he was observing the battle like Xiao Hua. Now that he saw Xiao Hua take out the Kunlun mirror, he was not surprised. He asked curiously, "You can still use the storage device?" Xiao Hua frowned. He knew that Inkue's vast space had sealed the storage pouch and other items. However, the vast space was sealed by the qi of nature. It was not comparable to the colorful seashell's vast space, so Xiao Hua's vast space could still be used. Xiao Hua ignored Inkue. Under the stimulation of his magic power, the celestial being revealed his Dharma body. He flew out while shaking his head. Then, he swung his fist and smashed it toward the axe-wielding Book Immortal. Ah! Not only was the axe-wielding Book Immortal shocked, but Inkue was also surprised. Although the axe-wielding Book Immortal was stunned for a moment, he did not dare to hesitate. He still chopped down with his axe. The celestial being was also not afraid. He met the attack with his bare hands. Boom! Amidst the explosion, the celestial being's fist was not damaged at all. However, the axe-wielding Book Immortal's axe was smashed into pieces. The axe-wielding book immortal was caught off guard. The celestial being even more despicable. He lifted his foot and kicked the axe-wielding book immortal's nose. Roar! The axe-wielding book immortal was shocked. He quickly retreated, and half of his body even disappeared into the void. He wanted to avoid this humiliating kick. Unfortunately, the celestial being didn't show any mercy. His foot chased after the axe-wielding book immortal for several hundred kilometers like a shooting star. Finally, it landed on the axe-wielding book immortal's nose with a puff sound, dispersing the black mist on his face. Damn it! Although the axe-wielding book immortal was not injured, this humiliation was deeply engraved in his heart. He cursed angrily and waved his axe again to fight the celestial being. I underestimated you. Inkue saw that the axe-wielding book immortal and the celestial being were far away from each other. He withdrew his gaze and looked at Xiaohua, who was facing him directly. He said meaningfully, I didn't expect you to have the Kunlun mirror. You should have known. Xiaohua looked at the Kunlun mirror and sneered. It's just that you have 5 clones, so you don't care about I at all. Ha! Inkue waved his hand and raised the sword once again. Countless mighty energy pillars smashed down, and countless sword wills gushed out of the sword like 100 flowers blooming at the same time. Then, Inkue's proud and wild laughter could be heard. That's right. In my eyes, you are nothing but an ant. You're not worthy of my attention at all. You can thank you to the Alliance Masters, Mei Xianjun and Kai Guanhuan for their tips. Chapter 5205. Facing such a Inkue, Xiaohua couldn't help but think of the Confucian emperors he met before. Normally, he wouldn't hesitate to release Jojo Cauldron. Even if when Chu was here, he would also release Heaven and Earth Pagoda. In the etiquette of Confucian cultivators, there was a strict distinction between heaven, earth, ruler, parents, and teacher. However, Xiaohua didn't dare to try facing the demonized book immortal of the heavenly court. Not to mention that this was the book immortal's space domain, the countless stars in the sky were like melodies, and the countless clear streams on the ground were like vast rivers. Just the book immortal's unpredictable 3 flowers at one's prominence was enough to make Xiaohua unsure who would be suppressed in the end if he used the 9 continents cauldrons. Since that was the case, Xiaohua didn't intend to reveal his Confucian cultivator's divine ability. As he rubbed his hands, countless thunderbolts surged. He wanted to condense 5 big thunderbolts to block the sword. However, as soon as the thunderbolts of various colors surged out, they were immediately annihilated. Only then did Xiaohua come to his senses. He hurriedly withdrew and prepared to dodge the sword light. Whoosh! The sword light seemed to be far away, but with a wave, it actually surpassed the limit of space and appeared above Xiaohua's head like a waterfall. A bone-piercing cold force had already shrouded Xiaohua. Not to mention Xiaohua's blood vessels being shackled, even the magic power around his body was frozen. Xiaohua hurriedly raised his hand and the Kunlun mirror's light pillar surged out. Boom! It broke through the air and met the sword. Buzz! The sword slashed down and landed on the light pillar. With a sudden roar, the sword actually cut into the light pillar. Xiaohua felt the Kunlun mirror in his hands suddenly become heavy. Then, the light pillar was cut in half by the sword light and collapsed with a loud bang. Xiaohua was shocked. He hurriedly moved his body and wanted to teleport. Unfortunately, before he could activate his magic power, he felt that the space around him was like a solid barrier, preventing him from teleporting. Xiaohua frowned. Looking at the raging waves of righteous qi around him, he immediately activated wind escape. Whoosh! Xiaohua's body floated more than 10 miles away. Ha! Inkue was stunned again. While the sword in his hand chased, he raised his left hand and a bow appeared out of thin air. Kachacha! As expected, several layers of the laws of heaven and earth fell and covered the bow. Inkue grinned coldly. From his left arm, a few golden beams shot out, landing on the bowstring and instantly forming into a small golden arrow. As Inkue pulled back his left arm, it was as if another invisible arm was pulling the bowstring, causing it to produce a creaking noise. Along with the noise, a strange phenomenon occurred within tens of miles to the left. Thousands of lights and shadows were twisting and distorting, and wisps of great energy that looked like crystals were seeping into the small arrow. Even the void was shrinking into the small arrow along with the strange phenomenon. Xiaohua trembled with fear when he sensed a sharp pain that pierced straight into his bone marrow and even into his soul. He didn't hesitate in the slightest. His figure moved once more, and he flew high into the starry sky. "You think you can leave?" Inkue grinned coldly. Clang! The clear sound of the bowstring pierced straight into Xiaohua's ears. Woo! At the same time, a sharp whistling sound came from the bowstring. The small golden arrow paused for a moment, and soon after, a cluster of blurry lights and shadows appeared one after another, and the small golden arrow suddenly disappeared. Rumble! An extremely loud rumbling sound came from the void. Invisible waves seemed to collapse, and in the blink of an eye, they arrived at Xiaohua's back. Isn't this too powerful? Xiaohua felt that the void behind him, in front of him, and even to the left was cracking inch by inch. He couldn't help but smile bitterly. He forcibly resisted the urge to form an immortal seal and pushed the wind escape technique to the extreme. Whing! A loud rumbling sound came from the left, and then it suddenly disappeared. A cluster of bright and dark light appeared in front of Xiaohua's eyes, and a colorless, invisible sharp object stopped at Xiaohua's back. Xiaohua didn't dare to hesitate. His figure swayed, and he fell into the cluster of light beside him. Swish! As if his body moved according to his heart's desire, Xiaohua's figure had just moved, and he had already fallen into the cluster of light. However, he only fell into the cluster of light. Whing! A loud rumbling sound came from the left. When the rumbling sound subsided a little, Xiaohua discovered that he was already very far away. And 1,000 miles to his left, crack, 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 crack. The void rumbled unceasingly, and layers of golden brilliance filled the air. Lucky! Xiaohua knew that it was the small golden arrow that missed its target, and he couldn't help but cry out in his heart. What kind of escape technique is this? Before Xiaohua could steady himself, Inkue's surprised voice came from not far away. It's actually so powerful. Looking at Inkue's huge body swaying like smoke, Xiaohua glanced at his left hand with vigilance. Fortunately, the bow on his left hand was already gone, and the terrifying aura was also rapidly declining. Xiaohua let out a sigh of relief. He knew that even Inkue, the Heavenly Court's book immortal, couldn't casually use this shocking attack. Only then did he say coldly, "Our Taoism has a myriad of magical powers. How could a Confucian cultivator like you know them?" You're just a little cultivator who hasn't set foot in the immortal world of Taoism, and you still dare to be arrogant in front of me? Don't forget, I've also injured the immortals of the immortal world. Inkue laughed again. He raised his sword, and the sword slashed towards Xiaohua. Xiaohua hurriedly urged his magic power, and the Kunlun mirror once again produced a 5-colored light beam to meet the sword. Swish! Strangely, just as the sword touched the light beam immediately distorted, and the sword actually made a light whistling sound. At this time, above Inkue's head, boom! A light beam that was exactly the same as the Kunlun mirror fell from the sky. Unfortunately, just as the light beam was produced, Inkue's figure flashed, as if he had already expected it. His left hand grabbed, and a fist-sized golden seal appeared in his hand, and he chanted a mantra. Woo! The golden seal flew obliquely and smashed behind the light beam. Ka ka ka. Under the suppression of the golden seal, hundreds of Xingming chains were produced, sealing the void. In the distorted void, Xiaohua's face was filled with disbelief. The dream mirage butterfly was flapping its dreamy wings, and it was resting on his shoulder. However, at this time, near the dream mirage butterfly, an indescribable fluctuation flickered, firmly sealing the dreamy light and shadow. Go. Seeing that Inkue had seen through his intention, Xiaohua hurriedly raised his hand and pointed, and the seal of overturning the sea broke through the void. Boom! The seal of overturning the sea hit the golden seal, and countless void folds rapidly appeared. Light and shadow flashed, and then the seal of overturning the sea was knocked back 100 li. Inkue looked at the seal of overturning the sea, then at the dream mirage butterfly on Xiaohua's shoulder. He was somewhat surprised and said, "You have a lot of tricks up your sleeve. I can't believe this spirit bird can confuse my heavenly eyes, and this spirit item can actually survive my golden seal. You have really made me look at you with new eyes. This fellow is too strong." Xiaohua sighed, and had no choice but to activate the Kunlun mirror. Roar! Reverend Yun gave a furious roar, swaying his dragon tail as he flew out of the light beam. Layers of dragon aura overflowed from where he landed, while wisps of dragon runes rushed out like swimming fishes, wiping out more than half of the mighty aura. Dragon clan. Inkue was struck dumb. Looking at Reverend Yun, whose dragon aura was as mighty as his, he could not help but cry out, "There are dragons from the dragon realm in this Kunlun immortal realm." However, it was only a brief moment of surprise, as a golden light shone out from under his pearl crown. Then, he was enlightened and said, "I understand now. This dragon is not a real dragon from the dragon realm, but one who is preparing to enter the dragon realm. This is wonderful. I'm just looking for a dragon to change my body, and you've delivered a dragon to me. Heaven is really at my will." Reverend Yun sneered as he thrust his dragon claw toward Inkue, unleashing a mighty dragon aura that suppressed the aura of an emperor. "So what if there are two of you?" Inkue showed no fear, as he took a step forward in midair. Boom! Another loud rumble echoed out. Countless golden threads were seen darting about in Inkue's body, which was shrouded in black smoke, while his body expanded rapidly. While Xiaohua was struck dumb with amazement, another head grew out from the back of Inkue's head, and another pair of arms and legs stretched out from it. Like a celestial being, Inkue had transformed into his nascent divinity Dharma idol with 2 heads and 4 arms. Boom! Inkue's nascent divinity Dharma idol was born with an axe in one hand. As it swung, it split the void and smashed toward Reverend Yun's sharp claw. As for the other nascent divinity Dharma idol, it unleashed a sword and a golden seal at Xiaohua at the same time. This. Reverend Yun hesitated when he saw the huge axe was no match for Inkue, wondering if he should take out the Pangu axe. But, after a brief thought, he gave up the idea. After all, they were not in a desperate situation yet, and the Pangu axe was a mighty weapon that could destroy the 3 peaks of heaven, earth, and man. Reverend Yun dared not to take the risk. Therefore, Reverend Yun swung his dragon tail, sweeping across the void and smashing toward Inkue's arm. Another unarmed one. Inkue laughed. "Don't tell me you don't even have a handy dragon item." Before Inkue's voice could fade away, a silver flute appeared in his other hand. As he waved the flute, strange noises could be heard. Even though Xiaohua and Reverend Yun were strong, they still felt dizzy and their souls were about to shake. "Damn it!" Xiaohua cursed under his breath as he retreated quickly. Once again, he exercised the Kunlun mirror and called out, "Namo Maitreya Buddha." Then, a Buddhist chant that shook the heaven and earth was heard. Stepping on the 9-tiered lotus throne, he stepped out of the void with the pure water vase and Pramitha in his hand. No. No way. Seeing the appearance of the Buddha Maitreya Buddha, whose Buddhist light filled the entire space, and the sound of the wooden fish and the chanting of sutras pierced his ears like needles, Inkue was completely dumbfounded. He murmured, There's another Buddhist disciple." However, When Inkue saw the nine-tiered lotus throne of the Buddha Maitreya Buddha and the light behind his head, he exclaimed again, "And he's a bodhisattva with the fruit of Buddha? Since when did the Buddhist sect exist on Dawn Rain continent?" Not only was he shocked, but a golden light flashed in his pearl crown. He saw the Buddha lotuses and the light around the Buddha Maitreya Buddha overflowing with the river of faith. In the river of faith, worlds of all sizes were born, and there was no end to them. He groaned again, "Damn it. Not only does he have the fruit of Buddha, but he's also a future Lord Buddha." P.S. To all the fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, give it a recommendation vote, collect it, or tip it. Thank you to the leader of Starry Sky Reappears 8 and Yi Wui No Joy. Chapter 5206. Namo Maitreya Buddha. Maitreya Buddha stepped out and chanted Buddha's name. Then, he formed a seal with one hand and sent out the Buddhist mantra. Wu. The huge word, swordsman, spun in the air and smashed toward Inkue. Maitreya Buddha was indeed the nemesis of Inkue. Although it was only the Buddhist mantra and did not have any special magical power, under the Buddha's light, the black gas around Inkue quickly converged and countless hair-like vortexes appeared on the surface of his body. The melody on the flute was suppressed by the Buddha's name and had long been annihilated. Xiao Hua was overjoyed. His figure flashed, and he was about to besiege Inkue with Maitreya Buddha and world venerables. However, before Xiao Hua could get close, Inkue's other face sneered. He waved his sword, and a shocking sword beam pierced through the air. Xiao Hua was helpless. As the Kunlun mirror swayed, the void shattered, and the power of space generated blocked the sword beam. Looking at Maitreya Buddha's mantra, Inkue, who was a little frightened, waved his hand that was holding the flute. Woo woo. The sound of ghosts crying and wolves howling came from his hand and a red brilliance flew out. Within the brilliance, a blood-red skeleton was surrounded by the red lotus karmic fire. In its empty eye sockets, two scarlet spots shone greedily. Puff. The blood-red skeleton opened its mouth and spat out a stream of red lotus karmic fire, which turned into strange characters and met Maitreya Buddha's mantra of 9 syllables. When the red lotus karmic fire and mantra of 9 syllables collided, there was a strange sound. Then, countless black threads of light and even fog appeared. Wisps of netherworld aura rushed out in an incredible way. When the red lotus karmic fire disappeared, the mantra of 9 syllables was also annihilated. GGA. The blood-red skeleton opened its mouth and shouted, "What a fat Buddha Lord! If I eat you, will I become a ghost master?" After that, the blood-red skull let out a roar that sounded like a dragon's roar and turned into a blood column. One end of the blood column fell on Inkue's arm, while the other end turned into a ghost head that pounced on Maitreya Buddha. Damn it! This bastard's red lotus hellfire doesn't belong to the Buddhist sect. Seeing how arrogant the blood-colored skeleton was and how it wasn't afraid of the Buddha's light, Xiao Hua came to a realization and cursed inwardly, "It's the red lotus karmic fire of the ghost cultivators. I'm afraid this skeleton isn't a simple skeleton. Otherwise, it would be impossible for it to not fear the Maitreya Buddha. The Maitreya Buddha has met his match." While Xiao Hua was cursing inwardly, he roused his spirit and activated the Kunlun mirror. From time to time, he would also unleash the Ting Jiao shears and fight against Inkue. Among the 5 incarnations of Inkue, the Book Immortal was fighting against Taoist Witch, the one with the flute was fighting against Phoenix Parasol, the one with the bow and arrow was fighting against Huang Tong, the one with the axe was fighting against Celestial, and the one with the sword was fighting against Thunder Immortal. These 5 Book Immortals and Xiao Hua's 5 incarnations were fighting in 5 different directions. On the other hand, Inkue's true form was his nascent divinity avatar with 2 heads and 4 arms, each holding a sharp weapon. The blood-colored skeleton was fighting against the Maitreya Buddha, the axe was fighting against Reverend Yun, and the other 2 arms were wielding a sword and a golden seal, smashing toward Xiao Hua. Although Xiao Hua had activated 2 spirit treasures, he was still not in Kuei's match. The Ting Jiao shears could not stop the golden seal, and there were a few times when it almost hit Xiao Hua's golden avatar. Even when the Ting Jiao shears slashed at In Kuei's avatar, it failed to do anything. Xiao Hua could not help but feel that he was at his wit's end. When he activated the Kunlun mirror and blocked In Kuei's golden seal, Xiao Hua frowned and looked at the Celestial. The Celestial and the axe-wielding Book Immortal were fighting fiercely, and even the vast space in the sky was somewhat chaotic. A few stars surrounded both of them, pouring down an immense amount of noble energy to repair the space. The Celestial has 3 heads and 6 arms. If he is fighting against In Kuei's 2 heads and 4 arms, they should be able to complement each other. Xiao Hua thought to himself. Of course, if the Maitreya Buddha and the world revered unleashed the Tree of 7 Wonders, Reverend Yun unleashed the Pangu axe, and I wielded the Slaughter Fiend's saber, I think I can achieve victory with just 1 strike. But, whether it is the Maitreya Buddha or the world revered or Reverend Yun, they will no longer be able to wield their magical items after the first strike. It will be a little troublesome to break the formation. But, if I don't use these means now, it will be hard for me to fight against this fellow. Perhaps I have no choice but to summon the Slaughter Fiend. With that thought in mind, Xiao Hua glanced at the space in the distance from the corner of his eyes, then retracted his gaze as if he was pricked by a needle. Fine, I'll summon the Slaughter Fiend then. Xiao Hua clenched his teeth and thought to himself, even if the Slaughter Fiend is a member of the Fiend race, compared to this Book Immortal who has turned into a fiend, he is no different from the Maitreya Buddha and the world revered to the cultivators of Dawn Rain Continent. When Xiao Hua pretended to activate the Kunlun mirror, his gaze swept past the water bottle in the hands of the Maitreya Buddha world-honored one. Xiao Hua's eyes unconsciously lit up. His figure swayed, but he didn't make a sound. The Maitreya Buddha world-honored one received Xiao Hua's instructions in his heart, and his figure also flew towards Xiao Hua. When he got close, the Maitreya Buddha world-honored one raised his hand, and the water bottle fell into Xiao Hua's hand. Oh! In Kuei had long been paying attention to Xiao Hua and the Maitreya Buddha. Seeing the water bottle change hands, In Kuei was quite puzzled. However, the next scene made In Kuei's heart shrink. Xiao Hua took the water bottle, raised his hand, and took out the willow branch. As he waved it, an invisible 10-colored rainbow bridge broke through the sky and fell, hitting the blood-colored skeleton. Although In Kuei did not know what this willow branch was, when the invisible rainbow bridge fell, he was instantly frightened. Almost without thinking, he shook, and the blood-colored skeleton on his left arm suddenly disappeared, as if it wanted to hide in the void. Unfortunately, even if the blood-colored skeleton disappeared, the 10-colored rainbow bridge still chased straight into the void. Puff! A very low sound came from the void, and then blood streaks flowed out like a spring. Within the blood streaks, countless black bubbles flew out and disappeared in the air. Aoo! After the black bubbles, the blood-colored skeleton appeared with a howl. At this time, the blood-colored skeleton that was originally lingering around the skeleton had become abnormally dim. Even within the blood-colored skeleton, there were some cracks on the skeleton. What kind of spirit treasure is this? It seemed that In Kuei had never seen such a powerful spirit treasure in his life. He gasped, blocked Reverend Yun, Maitreya Buddha, and the Maitreya Buddha, then retreated quickly. He looked at Xiao Hua in disbelief and asked. If it were before, Xiao Hua would never have answered. However, at this moment, he was holding the willow branch calmly. With a proud look on his face, he looked down at In Kuei and replied indifferently, "What? Aren't you the Book Immortal of the Heaven? I have so many helpers, but they are no match for you. Don't tell me you don't even know what this is." Xiao Hua could not see the expression on In Kuei's face, but there was already displeasure in his voice. "Ignorant boy," he said proudly. "How can you know what I've been through? Besides, how can you guess the vastness of this world with your current overall strength? There are too many secrets in this world that we don't know. What's so strange about me not knowing what you're holding in your hand? It's fine if you don't want to tell me, but when I kill you, won't it be mine? Xiaohua did not answer in Kuei, but looked at the blood-red skeleton with great interest and asked, if I'm not mistaken, this skeleton of yours should be a ghost cultivator, right? In Kuei hesitated for a moment, as if he was unwilling to answer. But at last, he nodded and said, yes, this is indeed a ghost cultivator. Actually, said Xiaohua smilingly, I'm not surprised to see a ghost cultivator, but I'm surprised to see you, a book immortal of the heaven, cultivate a ghost cultivator. And, you, have even refined this skeleton into one of your incarnations. That's even more shocking to me. Boom. 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 Right after Xiaohua's voice faded away, the entire space began to tremble. The sky, earth, and rivers faded away like the twilight, revealing countless stars that looked like stars. Some were rich, some were thin, some were fresh, and some were decaying. Mighty auras of various colors poured down from these stars. Xiaohua. Inkue finally called out Xiaohua's name and asked word by word, who are you? Xiaohua shrugged and said smilingly, I'm Xiaohua. Aren't you hiding in the sword catacomb? I suppose you've heard of my name. No, you can't be a cultivator from Dawn Rain Continent, and you can't even be a cultivator from the mortal world. Inkue's voice turned cold as he asked in a low voice, you. Which immortal realm are you the reincarnation of? Hehe, you think too much. Xiaohua's expression remained unchanged as he said, well, let's make a simple deal. You answer my question, and I'll tell you what this thing is. Fine, we'll do as you say. Inkue glanced at Reverend Yun, Maitreya, and Buddha Sizun, who had surrounded him. Xiaohua raised his voice and said, fellow Taoists, please wait for a moment. It's not too late to strike after I've asked. Noisy. Reverend Yun said unhappily, let's finish this fellow quickly. Buddha Maitreya put his palms together and said in a low voice, Namo Maitreya. I don't understand. Xiaohua went straight to the point and asked, you're a book immortal of the heaven, so how can you perform a blood sacrifice? And, for your own personal gain, you even wounded an immortal from the immortal realm? If you tell me how you became possessed by the fiend, perhaps I can help you. Humph. Inkue snorted coldly and said, who told you I became possessed by the fiend? Are you talking about those two Qi immortals from the immortal realm? What a talkative fellow. How do you know that I'm now walking on a broad path, and that my previous cultivation is wrong? Seeing that Inkue refused to admit it, Xiaohua glanced at the battles in the distance and said with a smile, our Tao League has a technique of cloning. Normally, 1 or 2 clones are the limit, and even an immortal can't have 5 clones, can he? But, what is special is that the overall strength of your 5 clones is very similar to yours, which is very different from the technique of cloning. I suppose, your blood sacrifice is related to this technique of cloning, right? How did you know? Inkue was shocked, and he asked again in disbelief. P.S. To all the fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, give it a tip, and thank you, Alliance Leader 375,655 and Kai Gui Hun. Chapter 5207. Xiaohua rolled his eyes and said with a smile, of course I didn't know before, but when I saw this blood-red skull and the red lotus hellfire, I suddenly remembered that I once obtained a pitch-black spiritual item in my early years. It recorded the 7-eyed beautiful passion flame and the myriad strands technique. Isn't it similar to your red lotus hellfire and the ghost cultivator's doppelganger technique? I see. Inkue understood. After thinking for a moment, he nodded and said, in that case, tell me what spiritual item you have first, then I'll explain it to you. It's a Buddhist item in my hand. Xiaohua raised his hand, and the blood-red skull quickly dodged in fright. A Buddhist item? Inkue was even more confused and asked curiously, "You're a Taoist cultivator, how can you activate such a powerful Buddhist item?" "This seems to be the second question." Xiaohua said indifferently, "Why don't you tell me about your doppelganger technique first?" "All right." Inkue didn't know if he really wanted to know the origin of Permitha or if he wanted to take the opportunity to repair the ghost cultivator's doppelganger, so he answered in a low voice, "I'll explain it to you. When I was on duty in the heavenly court, I was ordered to go to the taboo star field to kill the ghosts. However, when I killed the 4 ghosts, I accidentally obtained a broken lonely leaf. The myriad strands technique was recorded on it, just like what you know. At that time, I didn't care, but 1,000 years later, when I followed the great general of the West to quell the war in the western star field, I saw many immortals who were about to die. These immortals couldn't be saved and could only wait for death, so I thought of the strange item needed for the doppelganger technique." By the time Inkue gave a simple explanation, Xiaohua had already understood that what Inkue needed was the energy essence. Just as he had expected, what Inkue was doing was not a real blood sacrifice, but just taking away the energy essence of the human race with the method of ghost cultivators. Xiaohua looked at the millions of human cultivators who were still protected by hundreds of scattered nascent soul cultivators in the distance and said with a bitter smile, "In that case, the strange item you need should only be found in the upper realm. The millions of humans on the Dawn Rain continent. Even if they're all sacrificed by you, I'm afraid it won't bring you much benefits." "I didn't plan to sacrifice the humans on the Dawn Rain continent," Inkue said indifferently. "If I wanted to, I would have killed all the Taoist cultivators on the Dawn Rain continent when I landed. It's just that I've started to awaken recently, so my avatars released their primordial spirits. Those avatars saw that the Fortune Gate's disciples were causing trouble with the Heavenly Patrol City's sword cultivators, so they came up with the idea on the spur of the moment and wanted to contribute to me." "That's great." Xiaohua rubbed his nose and said, "Since they aren't enough to fill the gaps between your Excellency's teeth, could your Excellency please let them go?" "If it was before, I would have definitely let him go." There was a hint of mockery in Inkue's voice as he continued, "If I were to release them now, I wouldn't even be a match for your Fortune Gate's hundreds of Ninth Tribulation scattered soul cultivators. So, tell me, can I let go?" Xiaohua narrowed his eyes as he stared at Inkue and said threateningly, "If I don't save those humans, can I ask all my fellow Taoists to work together and kill you first, then save those humans?" "Of course you can." Inkue acted as if Xiaohua wasn't talking about him and immediately replied, "However, you have to consider this carefully. As long as the hundreds of scattered soul cultivators formation disappears, I can guarantee that these millions of humans will be instantly killed by me. Also, I want to tell you that a person should keep his word. Please tell me the origin of this thing before you act." Inkue's words were naturally what Xiaohua was worried about. The hundreds of Ninth Tribulation scattered soul cultivators were just enough to protect the millions of cultivators, so it wouldn't be enough to spare one more to help. Xiaohua pretended to ponder for a moment before saying, "In fact, this thing isn't a Buddhist artifact, but a saint artifact." "Saint artifact?" Inkue was even more confused. "What saint artifact? Where is it from?" As soon as Inkue's voice fell, above the sky, behind the dozens of literati stars, layers of holy aura gushed out like a tide, followed by bursts of prayers and praises. In the midst of these sounds, cracks appeared in the vast space, and within them, countless olive branches, grapes, and other objects were revealed. What was special was that as the holy light shone down from the sky, boulders, streams of water, sharp swords, and cross-shaped stars were born. When the cross-shaped stars filled a corner of the sky and blocked the hundreds of literati stars, Zhang Jie flapped his transparent wings and flew out of one of the cross-shaped stars. At this time, Zhang Jie was singing praises, and as his wings flapped, a pleasant hymn sounded. Xiaohua had heard this hymn before, which was full of sorrow, sadness, disappointment, and helplessness. Moreover, the rhythm was getting lower and lower, and even the whole world was filled with despair. An angel of the holy light realm? Inkue couldn't imagine that there were two-winged angels on the Dawn Rain continent. He couldn't help but exclaim, how is this possible? Then, Inkue looked at the willow branch in Xiao Hua's hand and understood. He shouted, "The saint artifact you mentioned, is it the saint artifact of the Holy Light Realm?" "Of course." Xiao Hua proudly held the willow branch and sneered, "If it's not the Holy Light Realm saint artifact, which realm's saint artifact can it be?" "Fellow Taoist." Zhang Jie flew down, frowning. He looked at the black aura around Inkue with disgust, and then looked at Xiao Hua. It was rare for him to call Xiao Hua, fellow Taoist, and he said, "Why did you call me here? Is this demonized book immortal the key to breaking the array?" Of course, Inkue was confused, but Xiao Hua didn't explain. He pointed at Inkue and said, "Zhang Jie, this man is a demonized book immortal from the heavenly court. He wants to sacrifice the Dawn Rain continent, where millions of humans live. What does this have to do with me?" Zhang Jie said unhappily, "Although I promised you, I will only help when you break the array. What does this book immortal do have to do with me? Don't you want to comprehend the mystery of the Permitha realm?" Xiao Hua waved the willow branch and said, "As long as you help me, I promise to let you comprehend the Permitha realm for 3 days." "Really?" When Zhang Jie heard this, his wings trembled, and countless praises sounded like war drums. Obviously, Zhang Jie was very excited. Damn it! Inkue was furious. Before Zhang Jie could make a decision, he waved his 4 arms, thrusting his sword, chopping his axe, and activating his golden seal. The bloody skull also spat out the red lotus karmic fire. "Humph, damn evil creature." Zhang Jie was furious when he saw the ghost cultivator's red lotus karmic fire. "How dare you use ghost arts in front of me?" As he spoke, Zhang Jie waved his crystal-like arm, passing through the light and landed in front of Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua understood Zhang Jie's intention. Without any hesitation, he waved his hand and handed the Permitha realm to Zhang Jie. Ha! Zhang Jie had just taken the Permitha realm when her 2 7-layered wings spread open again. Layers of holy flames leaped out of the void like the sun, and a huge impatience flower appeared in front of Xiao Hua. The petals of the impatience flower bloomed, and it was very dazzling. Zhang Jie's face was full of sincerity, and he was chanting in the holy language. As Zhang Jie waved the Permitha realm, the impatience flower bloomed completely, and the 10-colored brilliance covered Zhang Jie's body. At the same time, an overwhelming holy energy rushed out of the Permitha realm, and it rushed toward Inkue 10,000 times more ferocious than the heaven and earth overturning. Looking around, as the 10-colored brilliance shone, the noble chi within 10,000 miles disappeared, and everything was filled with holy light. A kind of transparency, a kind of mercy, a kind of forgiveness, and an incomparable love came from the holy light. "Huh, Xiao Hua, you've been tricked." Facing the holy power of Permitha, Inkue was visibly moved, but he was also pleasantly surprised. As he laughed, he opened his mouth, and a stream of true energy with the outline of a petal fiercely fell into the void. Boom! 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 Dozens of pillars of punishment once again rose from the left and right of Xiao Hua and Inkue, firmly enveloping them. The holy light of Permitha landed quietly on the pillars of punishment, and was unexpectedly dyed crimson by the light of the pillars of punishment. This. Xiao Hua looked down at his feet in disbelief. The blood-soaked pillars of punishment slowly flew out and covered the space around him. He stuttered as he looked at Inkue. He really didn't expect Inkue's target to be him. Inkue glanced at Zhang Jie and the mysterious Permitha realm, and a disdainful smile appeared on his face. He turned to Xiao Hua and said with a smile, "You didn't expect this, did you? You are my prey. I first set up a punishment array for you to break, then I set up a vast space. Finally, I dawdled with you for so long because I wanted you to fall into the real punishment array. Only this array can exchange your demigod bloodline for me. You." How did you know? Xiao Hua couldn't believe his ears. This was one of his biggest secrets. Except for Elder Wu of Huda village, no one knew about it. He. Inkue raised his hand and pointed at the forehead of the bloody skeleton. The bloody skeleton opened its mouth, and an extremely dim bloody figure flew out from the skeleton's mouth. Wasn't it Xiao Hua's appearance? Damn it! I understand now. Xiao Hua cursed in a low voice. You got the drop of blood that I lost in the sword catacomb. Huh, that's right. Inkue laughed and clapped his hands. If it wasn't for your blood, how could I have woken up today? In my eyes, no human cultivator in the entire Xiaoyu continent is as precious as your drop of blood. I have planned for 1,000 years, and today, I can finally get what I want. If I devour your blood, I won't be able to cultivate to the supreme pure heaven immortal realm. While he was speaking, half of the scroll hanging above Ing Su's head fell down, and the execution platform appeared with a rumble. 81 pillars of punishment firmly bound Xiao Hua's aura. Although the laws of heaven and earth were madly pouring down, the evil aura of heaven and earth above the execution platform suppressed everything and blocked the laws. Furthermore, each of the pillars of punishment once again produced 81 extremely thick chains of punishment, which covered the sky and covered the earth as they fell down, wanting to seal Xiao Hua. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, give it a recommendation vote, collect it, and give it a tip. Thank you to Benben and Kai Gue Hun for their tips. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.